in attendance to this evening. I look forward to a good meeting. We will start with the invocation by the Reverend K. Todd Holt, pastor of Great Neck Baptist Church, and everyone would stand for the invocation and remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend Holt, we're glad to have you here. Yes, sir. Well, you want to turn that around? I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. We walked you tonight. There you go.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we come to you this afternoon, this evening. We thank you, Lord, for the day that you've given us, and thank you that you've established government to be an agent of good to the people. Pray for the meeting tonight that that everything would go well, Lord, that spirit of goodness would permeate the setting. And with respect to all faith, we pray this in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reverend, thank you again for coming in. We appreciate it very much. Do I have a motion for the certification of the closed session?
So moved. Second.
Second. Do I have any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 11-0, you have certified the closed session to be in accordance with the motion to recess.
Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes for the informal and formal sessions of April 21st, 2015, the special formal session of April 23rd, 2015, and the special formal session of April 28th, 2015?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 11-0, you have approved the minutes of each of the 3 dates read by the mayor.
I'm going to open a public hearing on franchise agreements for proposed cafe franchise leases on 11th Street and Boardwalk Cafe, Atlantic Avenue Side Street Cafe, Planet Pizza Sidewalk Cafe, Seaside Raw Bar Sidewalk Cafe.
Your Honor, we have no speakers.
Thank you. I will now ask Mr. Vice Mayor to move forward with the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval under the consent agenda. First, item K1, which is ordinance to grant 5-year franchise agreements for open-air cafes. A, 11th Street Boardwalk Cafe. B, Atlantic Avenue Side Street Cafe. C, Planet Pizza Sidewalk Cafe, and D, Seaside Raw Bar Sidewalk Cafe. The clerk would please note that Mr. Earn is abstaining on 1C. Item 2, K2, is ordinance to amend public work specifications and standards for a commercial entrances on connector streets east of Atlantic Avenue. Item 3, ordinance and resolution to authorize A, acquisition of property to protect the Southeastern Parkway and Greenbelt alignment at Credle Road. B, temporary suspension of commercial parking restrictions at 712 Atlantic Avenue. C, establishment of Swift Medical Transport. And D, annual EMS permit or Swift Medical Transport. The clerk would please note that the mayor and Mr. Earn are both abstaining on item 3B. K4, which is ordinances to accept and appropriate A, $25,000, the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, Ray Stormwater Quality Enhancements 2, and B, $3,050 for the Professional Support Development Team, Ray Employee Training. K5, which is an ordinance to transfer $220,000 of the sheriff's budget and authorize positions Ray workload demands.
Open a public hearing for planning.
Under planning for consent, item L1, which is consent for withdrawal. The application is CCW Development Associates, LLC, in the Beach District. Item 3, which is the Atlantic, for approval is the Atlantic Development Associates, LLC, Carolyn D. and William D. Wood in the Lynn Haven District. And would the clerk please note that the mayor is abstaining on this item also. Item 4, which is for deferral to June the 2nd, the application of Thomas R. and Joan G. Eckert, conditional change of zoning from R-7.5 to conditional PDH2 R5D and conditional B1A in the Bayside District. And item 6, which is the, do we have any speakers on item 5, Madam Clerk?
No, Your Honor.
Yes, you do.
Are they all in favor, or,
Barbara Messner is the only speaker.
I'm sorry?
Mrs. Messner.
Okay, we'll call you in a minute, Barbara. We're just going to, we'll take it off the
Item
consent.
6, which is the application of Kroger Limited Partnership, Tidewater Investments, and Charlie Weaver for conditional use permit Reyes Service Station at 5285 Providence Road in the Kempsville District. And the clerk would please note that the mayor is abstaining on that item. And item 7 for consent is the Assembly of Yah, Inc. for a conditional use permit to enlarge the church building for a religious use at 5151 Lock Lane in the Kempsville District. So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 11 to 0, you have approved the planning and ordinances as read by the Vice Mayor with the notation that the mayor is abstaining on K3B, L3, and L6, and Mr. Earn is abstaining on Ordinance 1C and Planning Item 3B.
I will now go to some things that are most enjoyable, giving out some proclamations. And Rosemary, could you take this one down? If Eric Anderson and is Mrs. Reese are here too, do you know, Rosemary? If Eric Anderson could come forward. And I will read this proclamation. Eric, we're glad to have you here today. And Rosemary is very close with this wonderful group of people and is going to present this proclamation on my behalf. Whereas Lakeside Construction Corporation is a land development company that has had its headquarters in the city of Virginia Beach since August of 1954. And whereas during that time, Lakeside Construction Corporation has developed many different communities in the city of Virginia Beach, including Diamond Lakes Estates, Avalon Hills, Homestead, Pocahontas Village, Fairfield, Point of View, Wesleyan Pines, and most recently Red Mill Farm. And whereas Mrs. Lucy F. Reeser, chairwoman of the board, emeritus, holds a great appreciation for the volunteers who dedicate their service to the citizens of the city of Virginia Beach. And whereas recently it came to the attention of Eric C. Anderson, president of Lakeside Construction Corporation, that the Princess Anne Courthouse Volunteer Rescue Squad had a need for a location to store equipment and house materials. And whereas Lakeside Construction Corporation owned a parcel of B2 zone land, including a storage facility in the subdivision of Red Mill Farm on the main thoroughfare of Nimmo Parkway that could aid the rescue squad in their mission, Whereas on April 1st, 2015, Lakeside Construction Corporation deeded the 1.53 acres of property along with the building thereon to the Princess Anne Courthouse Volunteer Rescue Squad, recorded in the Clerk of Courts records on April 14th, 2015, instrument number. And whereas the owners and employees of Lakeside Construction Corporation recognize the sacrifice and dedication of the volunteers who make our city great, and we're pleased to bestow this gift to the Princess Anne Courthouse Volunteer Rescue Squad. Now, therefore, I, William D. Sessoms, Jr., Mayor of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia, do hereby proclaim May 5th, 2015, Lakeside Construction Day in Virginia Beach, and call upon all citizens of Virginia Beach to express their thanks to Lakeside Construction for their generosity and their appreciation for the volunteers of our city. You can present that, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sessoms.
My pleasure.
Mayor Sessoms, Vice Mayor Jones, members of the City Council, City Manager Jim Spoor. Thank you for this proclamation in recognizing Lakeside Construction Corporation and the gift of property and storage facility to the Princess Anne Courthouse Volunteer Rescue Squad. I would like to recognize and thank Councilwoman Rosemary Wilson, who was instrumental in helping us with this dedication. I would also like to thank City Manager Jim Spoor for his support and guidance throughout this process. Additionally, I would like to recognize Lucy Reeser, who is our Chairwoman Emeritus at Lakeside Construction, for her constant love and support in all that we do at Lakeside. Without her guidance, we would never be able to accomplish all the great things we have over the years. Our group, along with our development partners, Ellis Gibson, have been able to develop and manage the Red Mill Commons, Red Mill Walk shopping centers, along with the crossings at Red Mill Apartment Complex, that we are happy to say have been both consistently awarded Best of the Beach for several years running. Last year, Lakeside Construction celebrated its 60th anniversary as a Virginia Beach Construction and Development Company, which I have had the privilege to been at Lakeside for 43 of those 60 years. When it came to my attention that the rescue squad needed a storage space to house their equipment, I went to Mrs. Reeser and we discussed how we could help. Mrs. Reeser was more than anxious to come up and aid, and we decided to gift the property valued at approximately $500,000. The citizens of Virginia Beach are so fortunate to have these willing volunteers that unselfishly give their time and talents to rescue us at our darkest times when we are in the most need. This deed of dedication is made to the Princess Anne Volunteer Rescue Squad, dated April 1st, 2015, and was recorded in the Virginia Beach Courthouse on April 14th, 2015. May I ask Captain Wilkins and Lieutenant Chris Daly to come up, please? These are the people that really put their lives on the line for us and really help us, and we're pleased to make this gift. And here's the deed to the property, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And to our volunteer rescue squad members, we appreciate you as well. I do have one more proclamation, if I could, and if I could ask, I'm jumping ahead of myself, Tim McCarthy and Deborah Grant to come forward, please. And this is for Virginia Organizing. Whereas Virginia Organizing is a nonpartisan statewide grassroots organization dedicated to challenging injustice by empowering people in local communities to address the issues that affect the quality of their lives. Whereas Virginia Organizing in Virginia Beach has worked to pass an inclusionary zoning affordable housing policy, a mobile home park protective policy, and curb predatory lending in the city through partnership with the Interfaith Alliance at the beach. Whereas Virginia Organizing works for the development of affordable housing options and the eradication of homelessness in Virginia Beach in partnership for successful passage of the Ban the Box policy. And whereas Virginia Organizing worked with the Human Rights Commission to create a resolution celebrating diversity and welcoming immigrants and to engage local citizens in community conversations to address issues of concern. Whereas among Virginia Organizing's statement of beliefs is the belief that all people should be treated fairly with dignity in all aspects of life, regardless of race, class, gender, religion, sexual orientation, age, ability, or country of origin. And whereas in August of 2015, Virginia Organizing is celebrating 20 years of grassroots organizing and bringing about real change for real people through countless campaigns to improve the quality of life for all Virginians. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, William D. Sessoms, Jr., Mayor of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia, do hereby proclaim August 2015 Virginia Organizing Month in Virginia Beach, and I encourage others to learn about and support this organization in its efforts. Shall I present the speech, please?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We thank you all for coming down. Did you want to say
something
anything?
very briefly?
Sure.
You know, we were formed 20 years ago with a chapter in Southwest Virginia. Our main chapter is in Charlottesville. Deborah is on the board of directors, and we try to lift up the voices of those who often are not heard and on some of the main issues. So transportation has been one of the main issues for us, voter registration, health care, dismantling racism, and also sea level rising and a couple other issues. But we're working to make it be democracy for all, in that all voices are important and all voices are heard. So we thank you very much for this recognition of our 20th anniversary.
Thank you for everything y'all do. Appreciate it. Council, I'm still keeping the public hearing open on planning, and I'm going to divert to number 5, the Aaron Holly Conte acquisitions. This was on consent, and we had one speaker, Barbara Mesner. You want to speak on that, please?
Your Honor,
Yeah.
we do have the applicant here in case you'd like.
Well, this was on consent.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, managers, and city attorneys. I strongly oppose the opening and operation of this brewery and other breweries you have partially approved. The state amendment to allow these breweries requires that they be in industrial locations. None of these breweries are in industrial locations. When the amendment passed, it was for a tasting and takeout operation, as no food sales are required. It was not meant to be a bar without food sales, which is unfair competition to all normal bars and restaurants who have normal liquor licenses. The John T. Atkinson Shopping Center at 912 Norfolk Avenue houses the Back Bay Brewery, run by Josh Canada and Charlie Burrows. These breweries normally don't have to be approved by City Council, who often have conflicts. Back Bay required council approval as it does not have the required parking spaces. Back Bay Brewery's Facebook page shows they have live bands and are open 12 p.m. till 11 p.m. 7 nights a week. This is wrong on every moral level, which appears to be a problem in Virginia Beach city government. We already have major problems with DUIs in Virginia Beach. They are higher than the national average of 43. It's 50 in Virginia Beach. Motorcycle crashes are substantially higher than anywhere else in the country. We do not have a safe city. We have major drug, alcohol, and violence. The crime stats in the Beacon are deceptive and omissive. You only send the stats for 6 days at a time, which still takes 1.5 pages. Multiply times 5 for 30 days, and we would have about 35 to 50 vehicle thefts each month. Mayor Sessoms, as a member of the Mayors Against Gun Violence, why aren't you listing the murders and the crime stats? Why aren't you listing the drug arrest and prostitution arrests? Speaking of arrests, can we pray that justice will finally prevail and our city will once again represent the middle class, the poor, the elderly, the disabled, and the children who need a safe, quality education? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ern,
I'd move that we would approve the planning item as represented.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the question, please. I will now go to item number 2, where we have several speakers. Leonard M. Lyon, changing a non-conforming use to add living space and move up dwelling at 4481 Lee Avenue. If the applicant will have 10 minutes, but I think, did you want to say something first, Mr.
Billy
Jones?
Arrington and Mr. Lyon are together, Your Honor.
Mr. Carrington, have you met with the neighborhood?
Yes, sir. We met with them about 2 weeks ago at Louis 44 Restaurant over on Lauderdale Avenue.
And I understand that the neighborhood had offered some ideas to you and
That's
asked
correct.
for some concessions
That's
from
correct.
you.
And 2 of the concessions Mr. Lyons has agreed to, and I'll be glad to explain those to you, but one of the things that the neighborhood was against was the small addition to the secondary unit there that he wants to build, so we have taken some of their suggestions into account, but not, we couldn't take all of them.
So Mr. Lyon's not willing to just move the smaller place without the addition?
No, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, you'll have 10 minutes, and then the other speakers will have 3.
I appreciate that, Mr. Jones, and I'll try to explain it as best I can. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Jones, members of the City Council, I am Billy Garrington. I have with me the applicant, Mr. Lenny Lyons, property known as 4481 Lee Avenue. If you could put the site plan up, please, I'd appreciate it. Property in question, here we go. Here is the existing, what I'm going to call secondary dwelling that's on this property now. The main dwelling is back here on the back of the property. According to your real estate tax records, this property was built in 1941.
So since 1941, you've had these two dwellings out there. The proposed plan is to make these two additions to the primary dwelling. This building that you see here will be rotated, where now it's only 8 feet off the property line here and about 5 feet off the property line where the porch and steps are. Once this is done, it will be 26.8 feet off the property line, giving much more open space to the units over here to the west of it, as opposed to what it is now. There is also an existing storage shed here that doesn't meet the setbacks that will be moved and brought into compliance with the zoning ordinance. So since 1941, you've had two dwellings out there. Some people will even tell you that you've had three dwellings out there. I think you will hear from some of the opposition that this was used as a duplex in the past. I don't think there's any question about that. We had one of your zoning inspectors come out, one of your building inspectors come out and meet with us some time ago. They inspected both of the units. It is not a duplex presently. It is just a single family. But it lends itself to a duplex in its present state, because to get from the first floor to the second floor of the secondary unit, you have to go outside. You can't get to it from the inside the building. One of the key conditions that your staff write-up put on this in recommending it for approval is that the interior, there has to be an interior stairwell in this once we move it to its new location. Another key thing is one of the concessions that Mr. Lyons made is once this building is moved, this exterior stairwell will go away, and so will this door that you see up here now. So you won't be able to get from the first floor to the second floor going outside, and you won't have the possibility of having two separate dwelling units there. It will be one dwelling unit with an interior stairwell. That stairwell will be removed, and the door will be removed also. One of the other neighbors also asked us to agree to do a lot grading study. Mr. Lyons agreed to do that before the building permit was ever issued for all this, to make sure that we don't have any drainage issues that are going on out there. In the meantime, since we were first on the agenda and we found out that there was a petition going around, and we haven't seen the petition that has been circulated, but Mr. Lyons has submitted a petition of his own, and he has went door to door and talked with several of his neighbors over there. I've got one petition that's got 33 signatures on it. I've got one other petition that's got 12 signatures on it. That once the people found out it's not going to be a duplex out there, it's going to be a single family, two single family units like it has been since 1941. A lot of the people that were in opposition to it said, hey, we're fine with that. That's what it's been all along. Granted, you have an R10 zoning district out there, and you don't want to do anything to disturb that R10 zoning district. But you could deny his request totally, and you're still going to have two dwelling units out there that have been there since 1941. We think by taking that unit and moving it off the property line, giving much more open space, bringing it into compliance with the R10 zoning setbacks, not only bringing it into compliance, but we're now going to exceed the R10 zoning setbacks. We feel that that would take away any of the negative effects that this small addition here would have to this piece of property. The occupant to that dwelling that is in there now is Mr. Lyons' mother-in-law and father-in-law. He is in the audience here with us today, and it's not going to be rented out as a duplex. You hear a lot of people talk about, well, it's going to be a condominium. Condominium is just a form of ownership. We're not going to condo it. Some of the neighbors that were in opposition even asked us, well, why don't you subdivide the property? We cannot subdivide a flag lot. It can't be done. I would be embarrassed to stand in front of you and say, hey, we're here to ask you for a subdivision variant, a subdivision to subdivide a flag lot. That wouldn't fly. Staff has recommended it favorable with 5 conditions that you see in your staff write-up. We're in total agreement with all 5 of those conditions. And we would add to the 6th and 7th condition, the exterior stairwell would be taken off, the doorway would be taken off, and we would agree to do a lot grading study on this piece of property before any construction ever starts. We think we've got a good application in front of you. If it wasn't, if I didn't think it was good, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. We're here to ask for your support of this request. Granted, there's a lot of neighborhood opposition to this, and I apologize for putting you in the position that you have to basically referee this dispute. But we did meet with them, tried to come to a compromise, and we just couldn't do it.
Thank you very much.
If you have any questions for me or Mr. Lyons, in case I haven't covered everything. But Mr. Lyons has owned the property since 2008. 2009, there was a building permit that was issued by the city of Virginia Beach to enclose that downstairs portion of it. So some people think that he did that without a permit. I've got a copy of the permit that was issued by the city of Virginia Beach, and it was done with a permit, and it was given a final inspection by your Permits and Inspections Office back in 2000.
Say that again. What was done with the permit?
He has a building permit that was issued in 2009 to enclose that downstairs area.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Jones, I've got a copy of that permit if you want to see it.
No, I believe you.
Okay, thank you very much. Call the speakers, please.
Yes, sir. Ron McIntosh.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, thank you. Appreciate it. I am the immediate neighbor to Mr. Lyons. I am at 4485 Lee Avenue and have been on Lee Avenue for over 32 years. I am opposed to the request for approval of the application and the change in nonconformity. There is no precedent set or established on the 4400 block of Lee Avenue that should favor the city council deviating from the zoning ordinance, section 105, in an R10 neighborhood. It's further my opinion and observations that doing so would be contrary to the long-term comprehensive zoning plan for suburban areas established for the 4400 block of Lee Avenue. Approval of this change request would in essence convert the property to a use that is compatible with an R5R zoning, not an R10. The other lots on Lee Avenue are, in this block, 4400 block of Lee Avenue, there are 31 lots, there are 31 houses, and they are all R10, single family. Furthermore, that section 105 speaks to the nonconformities, and it should not be allowed to become enlarged, expanded, extended, or relocated except upon resolution of the city council, and that's what brings us here this evening. If the 9-foot setback, I believe it's 9 foot based on the site plan that I saw, that piece of property, that structure used to be a garage apartment, and I think you'll hear furthermore tonight from other individuals about the position that has occurred relative to the permit that Billy and had referenced. That property had been there for almost 70 years, just like that, and I've owned that property for 32 years. And therefore, there's been 4 or 5 additional families there, and there was no hardship on those individuals. If there is, in fact, a hardship caused when the garage apartment was converted to a lower-level living space and an upper-level living space, and the garage was removed, that in that improvement, there was a porch and stair structure added to it that reduced it. You heard Billy say that it was about 5 feet. I think it is about 4 or 5 feet away from the property line. It did not used to be there. It used to be the original structure. We have met with Mr. Lyons, and we have said that that we're willing to compromise and go with them if there is no expansion to the property and it can be relocated. That's okay with us, and the other conditions that he had referenced. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Jack Stewart and Kenneth Lyons.
We have an easel here that we could just take a minute to set it up.
Absolutely.
Where's the best place to put this?
Right. Come forward, right, a little bit right there is perfect.
So the folks here on the entrance see. Good evening, I'm
We
Jack
welcome you
Stewart.
tonight.
I've lived at 4464 Lee Avenue for over 30 years. It's directly across the street from the applicant. And if you see on the G-pin map there, that's his property, and Ken Lyons and I live right over here. The only block, this is the only block between Lake Joyce and the Chesapeake Bay that is owned R10 single family. There's Lake Joyce, and Chesapeake Bay is way out there. If you look around there, it's just a high density of all duplexes or 3-story duplex condos. It's all zoned R10 single family. I'm the one that got the petition signed. All those red check marks out of the 31 homes, those 27 homeowners all signed a petition stating that they wanted it to stay R10 single family. They were totally opposed to this under the zoning ordinance of 105B. I don't know what Lenny got signed, but I know he had an online petition that had 33 signatures. 2 were from him, 5 were couples that lived elsewhere, and the rest didn't even live in our zip code. They had no interest in the neighborhood as being residents there. Everybody I talked to said that they bought their homes here and stayed here because of the R10 single-family zoning. I have to cut this short a little bit here. Ken, can you put up Exhibit 7? There, on your handout, you have a copy in a folder that I gave you that shows the GPIN map that was just up. There is a list on the pink sheet of the permits that were pulled, and those permits, any alterations that were made to that non-conforming dwelling don't relate to this. He got a permit after he got caught raising the building up in the air. The same contractor tried to raise it again and got caught again, or Ron McIntosh turned him in. He got an approval to install a raised floor, but he shouldn't have been able to do anything to that building without coming before City Council under the zoning ordinance. Ken, it shows the original building. I think it's number 8. This is what the building looked like back in 2003 when this picture was taken. That was the garage apartment, and it showed the enlargement. You, City Council, you also have these pictures. That's what it would look like. It had garage doors. The apartment was upstairs. It kind of was like a carriage house apartment that you would see down in Ghent. But that whole downstairs was finished off into living space without approval of City Council. I mean, they turned it into a full apartment and encroached on the side and into the setback and also on the back where the steps are. Transforming what was a small garage apartment, doubling the space already, and now wanting to add another space to triple it, you'd end up with a 4-bedroom, almost 1,800 square foot house. You'd have 2 large 4-bedroom plus houses on a single-family lot.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your comments. Next speaker, please.
Kenneth Lyons and Edward Center.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening. My name is Ken Lyons. My wife and I, Kathy, live at 4460 Lee Avenue, which is directly across the street from another property I own, which is 4479 Lee Avenue, which is directly in front of 4481 Lee Avenue. We oppose the change in nonconformity request because it is an enlargement in a structurally altered secondary dwelling, thereby making its use less appropriate to the existing nonconformity. The parcel at 4481 is already a flag lot with only a 20-foot street frontage. Should the expansion of the large apartment be approved, the structure size would increase to almost 1,800 square feet from the original only 576 square feet on the original garage apartment. It would have 4 bedrooms instead of the existing 2 bedrooms, and combined with the existing primary residence of 4 bedrooms, the property would contain in excess of 8 bedrooms possibly. Typically in the R10 zoning, we have 3 and 4 bedroom homes only. They would easily translate to 6 to 8 automobiles in property such as this, and the property residence that's excluding any guests there would be serviced on a 12-foot wide gravel driveway with only a 20-foot setback, which goes along the side of my house within 12 feet, so I could have 6 or 8 cars driving there on a daily basis. This would not be in preserving and protecting the overall character and economic value and aesthetic quality of the stable neighborhoods as set forth in the Virginia Beach Comprehensive Plan for the R10 suburban areas. Again, to point out, this structure here is the addition that we oppose, which is this structure here, which basically we see as tripling the size of the living space. It's not a small addition at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker, please.
Edward Center. Bruce Johnston.
We welcome you tonight, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and Mr. Spohr. My name is Edward L. Center, Jr., 2400 Seaview Avenue in the Bayside District. My property is on Lake Joyce and is 2 lots to the west of the applicant's property. I'm also speaking on behalf of my father, Edward L. Center, Sr., who resides at 4493 Lee Avenue and is here with me this evening. My family's owned property and lived in Chesapeake Beach since the early 1940s. Having grown up in this neighborhood, I witnessed firsthand the deterioration of quality of life over a period of decades as building and population densities have increased in areas zoned R5R, resulting in widespread rental properties, property maintenance deficiency, and unfortunately crime. Despite these challenges, the properties zoned R10, located on the 4400 block of Lee Avenue along the north shore of Lake Joyce, have long retained their charm and value. While we are not opposed to an addition to the applicant's primary residence or relocation of the nonconforming structure on the property, we remain opposed to any expansion of the nonconforming structure. We believe this will set a precedent for any other property owners in the 4400 block of Lee Avenue with nonconforming structures to follow suit in a similar fashion, thereby presenting many of the same problems we are seeing in areas zoned R5R. The approval of Mr. Lyons' application is currently written, and the precedent it would set for the future is not aligned with the general principles of Virginia Beach's comprehensive plan for suburban areas, in which the stated focus is preserving and protecting the overall character, economic value, and aesthetic quality of stable neighborhoods. Please oppose Mr. Lyons' application as currently written, which includes the request for the enlargement of a nonconforming structure at 4481 Lee Avenue. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker,
Bruce
please.
Johnson and Mark Walker.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
My name is Bruce Johnson. I live at 4654 Lookout Road. I lived in Chesapeake Beach for 16 years and been on the 15 years on the Civic League's Architectural Zoning Preservation Committee. I'm not here representing the Civic League in any manner. I'm here as a concerned citizen of the neighborhood. Okay, we live in an older neighborhood, and a lot of the houses were built prior to the current zoning ordinances adoption. And so we have a lot of non-conforming issues in the neighborhood, and that's why we're here tonight. Like Ron had mentioned, Section 105 allows the nonconformity to exist unless you move it, touch it, enlarge it, and that, and without y'all's approval. Now, the other part of this is your findings. The proposed use is equally appropriate or more appropriate to the district than the existing nonconformity. So we're going to relocate it. Now, we got to figure out what is more appropriate for the neighborhood and fall into zoning. What would be more appropriate would be relocating the structure to the center of the property, making it a single family, not a duplex like it has been in the past. But now we got to think, what would not be appropriate? Well, not be appropriate is relocating the structure to the center of property and allowing it to be enlarged, not by a small part, but 69% enlargement on this property. That's, what we're looking at. And that would be, not in accordance with the Section 105 of the zoning ordinance. So with this information, hope City Council denies this application as presented.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Mark Walker.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to speak kind of fast, so I apologize. I got a lot to cover here. My name is Mark Walker. I'm an architect and resident of Chesapeake Beach for over 35 years. Also co-chair of the Architectural Preservation and Zoning Committee for the Civic League. Just like Mr. Johnson, though, I'm here speaking on my own behalf as a citizen, and I oppose this stated application. City of Virginia Beach Chief Building Official Sherry Hayner emailed that there was a building permit in 2009 to install a raised floor system in the detached garage. Later, there was an unassociated separate electrical permit for an upgrade to the size of the service, as well as plumbing permit for water heater. She further stated that an inspection by the tax assessor's office indicates a completed living unit per each level of the garage in May 2010. There's no record of any permitting which would allow the applicant to create another third living unit on this single-family R10 zone lot. However, according to the city tax assessor's inspector, that's precisely what happened on this property. In addition, there's no record of a variance application or approval for the recently added side porch, which is a clear encroachment into the 10-foot side yard setback and therefore a violation of the zoning ordinance as well. In early 2015, the applicant's adjacent neighbor to the east, Mr. Ron McIntosh, who spoke a little earlier, observed demolition of the foundation walls of the garage structure and equipment mobilization occurring on the subject property, but no visible permit, which prompted Mr. Lyon to file the current application and is the subject of our meeting here today. All of these actions would seem to indicate a pattern of behavior which demonstrates little regard for city zoning and permitting process and requirements. For this reason, I would recommend that if the garage structure is allowed to be relocated, that several conditions be imposed and attached to that relocation. Many of these have been discussed tonight. First, all construction associated with the garage structure must comply with current applicable building codes. In particular, all windows and sleeping rooms should be egress windows,
and interior stairs shall be constructed to connect the 2 floors and shall meet all current design requirements. All electrical receptacles in wet areas shall be GFI. All floor framing loads shall meet current design load requirements. And next, the existing second floor exterior stairs should be permanently removed, along with the second floor exterior door and door openings should be closed, framed in, and sided over. Thirdly, no hardship exists, therefore no additions to the garage structure. Current footprint should be allowed. Finally, this must remain a single living unit with only one kitchen. As for the main house structure, I take no issue with the proposed additions.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next speaker,
That's all the speakers shown.
Mr. Garrington, you have a 3-minute rebuttal. And we welcome you back.
Thank you, Mr. Sessoms, and again, I apologize for putting you in this position that we're in. But I just want to stress to you that this property is zoned R10. Regardless of the outcome of this meeting tonight, it's still going to be zoned R10. We agree with taking the exterior stairwell off of the secondary unit, whatever you want to call it, doing away with that door and doing the lot grading study. But again, it's going to be R10 even if you don't do anything. With regard to the porch that doesn't meet the side yard setback, that's a moot point, because when we rotate that building to 28 feet off the property line, we may way exceed the 10-foot side yard setback in the R10 zoning district. So the addition that you're doing to that dwelling is 16 by 20. We don't think it's out of character, and I would just go strictly. I mean, we put a lot of faith in what your staff does. Sometimes your staff recommends favorably, sometimes they don't. Your staff has looked at this and said they see no negative impact upon this whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they think it's not going to set a negative precedent. If you were setting a precedent, the first time you ever granted anybody the ability to enlarge a non-conforming structure, you would have set a precedent, but you don't do that. You take each case on its own individual merits. And I think the individual merits here do warrant the approval of this, based upon the fact that we're taking something that is significantly non-conforming and taking the degree of non-conformity and reducing it significantly. And we hope that you will agree with us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming down. Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Ms. Lasley, the work that's been done on this garage apartment, were there permits for it, or?
We know there was one permit in 2008, but
What did that permit provide for?
yeah, it was to install the raised floor system in the detached garage.
The waste storage system?
Raise the floor. Raise the floor. Raise the floor.
Raise the floor in the
Right.
garage. Did that raise the structure itself too?
No.
Because I went by there and it looked to me like the structure had been raised also. Is that?
I can answer that for you quickly. That's the work that the contractor, Bedrock Construction, has done in anticipation of rotating that unit to the center of the property. He has taken the stucco wall around the foundation out. That's when he found out he needed to have a permit. When he went to get the permit, he found out he had to get the nonconformity approval. So that's why it's been looking like that since last year, so that we could get in front of you to try and get approval. But that's the work that was done in anticipation of moving the unit to the center of the lot. Sometimes
Okay.
contractors just get ahead of themselves.
So, let me ask you another question, Mr. Kerr. It started out as a garage apartment.
That's correct.
Now it's 2 stories of living space, is
That's
that
correct.
correct?
With no interior stairwell, so you have to go outside to get from one level to the next.
And was there a permit granted for that?
There was a permit granted to raise the floor in the downstairs unit, and it says on there, no site plan approved, but it was issued in 2009.
But was
And it
there-
had all the final inspections.
Was there a permit granted to create a second floor?
I would
living
assume that's
space?
what the raising of the floor was for. That, all it says on the permit is to raise the floor in the garage.
Okay, let me ask Ms. Lasley that question.
It shouldn't have been. We would not have been able to legally grant a permit to increase a nonconforming use such as this. Anything structural has to come through city council.
So this was done without a permit then?
Well, there was this 2008 permit to raise the floor, but we don't know a lot about what that would entailed.
I see.
It should not have been for a second-story addition.
Okay. Well, I think what's happened here is the property owner has pushed the envelope. And I agree that moving the house to the center of the property would be a good thing. I think the staff's right in that regard. What bothers me is the two things, and that is that the owner has moved forward to create a second level of living space in this building without getting the proper permit to do it. And the second thing that bothers me is the addition to the property itself. It's quite an enlargement of the property. What started out to be a garage apartment has now turned into a full-blown residential unit on a piece of R10 property, which under normal circumstances would have only one living unit on it, one living house on it. So, having said that, I think the neighbors are right. I think their opposition is warranted, and I'm going to move to deny the application.
I have a motion for denial. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion?
I have a question. I do support the motion, but assuming the motion carries, what is the consequence to the property given, because I'm assuming that someone went out there after they got this building permit, a city official went out there and approved something at the end and signed off on the permit. I'm not going to push the city attorney for an opinion today, but I would like to know at some later date, just, what any kind of implications of going out there and visually seeing the property, not relative to doing something different, but because we did go out there with someone who was an agent for the government, did see the property, that person's supposed to be knowledgeable and trained on the city requirements, signs off on the permit, having seen what was there, which we're now learning wouldn't be in compliance. What does that mean, and where do we go after the vote? I would like to have the city attorney share with us later just what our legal standing is, working with planning as to what happens now.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? John?
I would like to ask the question, Mr. Mayor. We have, some of this part of the application was not opposed to by the neighborhood, including the addition to the primary structure. Is your motion, Mr. Vice Mayor, to deny the entire application, including those items that were supported by the neighbors?
That was going to be my question. The opposition had no objection to the enlargement of the principal dwelling or of moving the garage to the center of the lot. The only opposition they had was to the smaller
in the
addition.
beginning, you said you would not agree to that
Well,
because
we
you
didn't want
wanted
to, but at the same time, we didn't know what the motion was going to be either. So we would
Welcome to
alter
my
our
world.
request, if you would, to where we would do the additions to the main dwelling and rotate the secondary unit to the middle of the lot, take away this exterior stairwell and the door, and do the lot grading study.
So you would take off the addition
That's correct.
and remove the exterior?
Yes, sir.
Who's your spokesman here?
I'll be that, Vice Mayor. I'm Ron McIntosh.
Come on up forward, please,
Come on
Ron.
up front.
Pull down. It's where we started. It's where we'd like to finish. They're our neighbors. We want them to be our neighbors. This is an equitable situation. No expansion to the second dwelling, which used to be formerly a garage apartment. Relocation of that in the appropriate location to meet the setbacks. That the exterior stairs be removed, the door be enclosed, that an interior stair be the access to the second level, no addition to that dwelling, and that a grading plan be provided, and that we're all good.
Okay, Mr. Stiles, or who's going to answer this question? Can we move for that tonight, or do we have to bring this back and have it?
Mr. Vice Mayor, you can vote for that tonight. What would happen is we would revise the resolution approving this that's on your agenda to specify the new conditions and bring that back before you for approval in your minutes. Or if council prefers, we can just go ahead and bring the entire thing back. It's entirely up to the council, but you don't have to rehear this in order for us to go ahead and effectuate the compromise.
Yeah, I don't think the neighbors want to have to come back again, so I think I'll revise my motion if I may, Mr. Mayor.
You got it, Mr. Vice Mayor.
And move that we approve it subject to the conditions that have been stated in the removal of the addition to the secondary building. And
Seconded again.
and is that acceptable to you, Mr. Carrington?
Yes.
Okay, and Amelia, you seconded it?
Yes.
Again.
Second again.
Mr. Moss.
Well, now that we're moving it, I want to retract my question because this solves part of it. But I do want to understand from planning what the procedures are in place today such that when people go out and inspect, they don't sign off on building permits when all the conditions don't comply with the standing zoning ordinances. Would like to understand that better. Thank
Okay,
you.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 11 to 0, you have approved the application as revised.
Thank you very much, and again,
Okay, council, we now go to the public hearing on Virginia Beach Transit Extension Project, local preferred alternative. Obviously, you can see we have a lot of speakers tonight. We will have a limit of 3 minutes per speaker, and we'll have to be very fair to everyone, so that means we'll hold everyone to the 3-minute limit. And for everyone's convenience and being able to move faster, I would ask that you would hold your applause pro or con of a speaker. Call the speakers, please.
64 speakers as of right now.
Excuse me?
We have 64 speakers.
Right, we have 64 speakers, so we want everyone to have a fair chance. First speaker, please.
Glenn Robertson. The second speaker is Brandon Kolek. If you please come forward to the dais, this lower desk here, when you have your second name called.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. I'm Glenn Robertson, and I'm the Virginia Beach Division Chair for the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber and several other members of the Virginia Beach Roundtable have submitted a written position statement to council, and those include the Hampton Roads Realtors Association, the Tidewater Builders Association, Virginia Beach Vision, and the Chamber. I am here tonight in support of that written statement we previously provided. We are strongly supportive of moving forward with selection of the extension of light rail to town center as the local preferred alternative. We would submit to you the public voted overwhelmingly in favor of this council using, and I quote, all reasonable efforts to support the financing and development of the Tide Light Rail into Virginia Beach, unquote, by an astounding 62.7% of the vote in the 2012 referendum. A study of almost 11,000 military commuters conducted by the HRTPO that same year found the expansion of light rail to be the #1 request of those surveyed by almost 3 times as many votes as any other suggested transportation solutions. Additionally, 91% of millennials, the young people that we wish to retain here and to draw here, have said that investing in public transit is important for the economic growth and job creation that they seek. Old Dominion's Life in Hampton Roads survey found 66% wanted light rail extended to Virginia Beach. While there is never unanimous opinion on much of anything, I would suggest to you that there is a strong consensus in support of moving forward on light rail in Virginia Beach, as demonstrated by what I've just provided. The business community, the military, our young adults have all found common ground on this vital issue. Now is the time to get started on this needed system. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here. We have support from the governor and from the Secretary of Transportation to an extent that I submit to you we may not see again for another generation or more. The Commonwealth is committed to providing us with $155 million in construction funding for this project, essentially half of it. But time is running short, and our friends in other parts of Virginia want that money if we don't show that we are prepared to move forward with concrete steps to develop this project. Our future economic growth is at stake here. Our efforts to both retain our military installations and to diversify our economy are at stake here. Your decision on this will impact our future, our children's future, and their children's future. If we squander this remarkable opportunity we have to bring light rail to Virginia Beach and to begin developing a regional transit system around it, we will choke on our highways until our quality of life, economic competitiveness, and ability to meet the transportation needs of our military installations are all lost. I submit to you that is what is at stake, and I urge you strongly to move forward.
Thank you very
for the
much.
opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Brandon Sholek and Tim McCarthy.
We welcome you today, sir.
Brandon Cholik from Thorogood. Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you for this opportunity to voice my objections to the proposed light rail project. I'm against the light rail for several common sense reasons. First, light rail is supposed to be used for transportation purposes. If in fact the rail only transports 2,500 riders daily, then the city is committing tens of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to transport 0.5% of the city's population. The Virginia Beach Transit Extension Study clearly states the build alternative would not be expected to directly decrease congestion of area roadways from current levels. That's what it says in the study. Second, it appears the rationale for the project is to spur economic development. This ever-optimistic, misguided development axiom, if we build it, they will come. Based on information of the American Public Transportation Association ridership comparison of 33 cities with light rails, most of the cities have an established downtown and business district. Their problems are much more clearly defined by having to transport commuters from outlying regions into the business districts, which are typically characterized by densely packed vertical business districts. The closest thing that we have of concentrated business centers right now are the Beach, Oceana, and Little Creek bases, of which the local rail will not go to initially. Thinking that light rail is going to vault town center to national prominence is an overreach. To hope large companies, tech companies, and millennials will move here because we have light rail is not worth the $300 million risk to the citizens. Again, the VBIT study clearly states the build alternatives are not expected to create development within the VBIT's corridor. That's what it says in the study. Third, to spend $155 million of state funds just because it's available is poor public policy. The standard for public and government officials is to act as good stewards of our resources and to use them for their intended purposes. If the rail is not going to transport or stimulate the development here, that's probably going to enrich a few select group of builders and cronies directly involved in the project at the expense of the citizens. Lastly, and most important, is the tax burden placed on the citizen. The rail in conjunction with the arena are two very large capital-intensive infrastructure projects occurring near simultaneously. Since 2011, the city has increased our taxes by 10% if the city approves the proposed 6 cents increase. This is your legacy to the city, and taking on expensive projects comes at a cost and risk to the citizens. In closing, I ask that you carefully consider the burden to the citizens of Virginia Beach as you determine whether the light rail now is worth the $300 million price tag for a project with little transportation or economic value to the vast majority of its citizens.
Thank you very
for
much.
your time.
Next speaker, please.
Tim McCarthy.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you,
Harry
Mr.
Jean-
Mayor and members of the council. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you, and I hope to model brevity in my remarks. I so appreciate the trajectory that you have set this city on in so many areas, from the oceanfront to schools to libraries to recreation centers to the land trust. And now I am very hopeful as you endorse the locally preferred alternative and bring light rail to town center. So before I go any further, I'd like to ask for all those in the audience that are here to support light rail and as well the budget amendments, if they would please stand just to be recognized. And what I'd like to say on behalf of all of those and the alliances that we have formed is that we deeply appreciate your majority support of the proposed reconciled budget of this afternoon and the monies necessary to move the light rail extension forward. I think it's a great vision for the city of Virginia Beach. We heartily endorse your efforts and support the very courageous decisions that you have made in the past and make with this reconciliation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Terry Jenkins and Don Krieger.
We welcome you tonight.
Mayor and members of council, Mr. Spoor and Mr. Stiles, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Terry Jenkins, and I'm a community volunteer. And I'd just like to say that I support the light rail initiative with particular concerns for people who don't have their own private transportation, either because of cost or because of frailty or infirmity or disability and are unable to drive. I thank you for the budget reconciliation discussion today, and I thank you for all your effort.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Don Krieger and Craig Pepper.
We welcome you tonight.
My name is Don Krieger. I'm a lifelong citizen of Virginia Beach, and I appreciate all that you all are doing in this very frenzied 2 weeks. I can only imagine what it's been like, but I very much appreciate your service to the city. I consider myself a citizen of the region first, and we all know that our region sits geographically at the end of a cul-de-sac, and it's critical to our region's future to create every possible linkage, and unless and until we connect the region's two financial centers, we'll never know light rail's potential. The future will take care of itself in terms of where light rail goes or doesn't go from there. But the millennial generation is all about connectivity and having choices in transportation. And so that's what I think this vote's about tonight, and I really appreciate your leadership for the city.
Thank you very much. Next speaker,
Kate
please.
Pepperell and Mike Barrett. Craig? Hoppin, I'm sorry, I mispronounced it.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I represent, my name's Craig Poppin. I represent Virginia Beach Vision, a group of over 120 business executives that share your views for the future of Virginia Beach and this region. We applaud all the things, like the other speakers, all the things that you do, all the hard decisions that you have to make, and this certainly is one of them, to respect everybody's rights and opinions. And those are tough decisions, and that's why you're in those seats. I was up here last week to talk about specifics. Other speakers have already done that. This is really a business decision, step-by-step process. I think you're moving forward with the next step to verify and firm up the costs associated with this extension, along with utilizing the unprecedented financing that has been made available by the state is a wise decision to move forward. And Vision has supported it as a group by an overwhelming majority. So we applaud what your decisions are, and thank you for your support.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Mike Barrett and Jack Bray.
Mr. Barrett, we welcome you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was told to leave my remarks at home. I just want to say thank you to you. I understand this has been worked out with regard to the budget, and I thank you tremendously for this decision, because I think this is the most important decision you'll make in a decade. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jack Bray and Ken Cord.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. I appreciate you allowing me to speak on the light rail and the tax raising taxes. First, let me say that your leadership role display on these issues for the residents of Virginia Beach, that you serve as appointed elected officials, and you as a servant, right? You are servants. Am I correct? Right? You're servants for the public? And if that's the case, if you are servants, there's just one catch to it. You're the servants, but what about the slaves? No, that's not the way it goes. What it is, you're the servants, but you also sign the paychecks, have the power, have the authority, right? So it's a little bit different, but you are a servant to 400,000 plus. All right. So my question to you is this: this decision you're going to make on the raising the tax and the light rail is critical to the integrity and truthfulness of your position. because your position, there is someone higher than you, higher authority than you, right? Yeah, you talk about it when you pray in here, that guy up there, you know, he's going to judge you. Now, do you think these residents back here are going to judge you? They're against it? Okay, you bet your life. And let me tell you who the audience is. Someone said how many people are here are for light rail. Let me tell you about the people that aren't here. People that are in nursing homes, people that are elderly, people that are handicapped, people that have parents of African Americans, single-head of household, people that are on paychecks that are working 2 jobs and 3 jobs. The unemployed. Oh, there's a lot of them out there. I could keep going and going. You think about who's not here and why they're not here. Those that don't care. Those that won't stand up. Okay? So there's a lot of people there. That's your job to make the decision. There are leaders in this country, such as Dr. Ed Brickell in Virginia Beach, right? Think about him. How about Myra? How about our President Washington? How about Abraham Lincoln? How about Hitler? What impact did he have? You are having an impact. What impact are you going to have in this city on your decision? Let me say this. What will you be able to look for? Can you look in the mirror and say your decision I made on these issues is fair and just? Okay, is it fair? Will you be able to tell your kids and your family and your residents that your vote was not based on a conflict of motives and self-interest? Will you be able to tell the voters and the residents that you put your office, in your office, you made the decision that you surveyed the residents of Virginia and found out what the ridership was before you made a vote on this? Before you ate that carrot for $155 million? Oh, let me see. Give me $20 million. I'm going to go buy a $100,000, $300,000 mobile home. Of course, I don't need it, but because you gave me that $120 million, I'm going to go buy it. That's how ridiculous that carrot is. That's not important. Your decision should be not based on the carrot. It should be based on true research. What is the ridership going to be? Right, sir? What is the ridership, ma'am, going to be? What is the ridership in Virginia Beach? Do your survey and find out. Do your feasibility study. You know, apartment people, developers, Ahmad Hoffler. Let's even talk about Dennis Elmer with Priority. Do you know when they make decisions and build apartments and hotels down in Virginia Beach, guess what? They determine what the occupancy is going to be, what the expense is going to be, and what the income stream is going to be, and they tell their president.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. We appreciate it. No, sir, you're done. Thank you.
I am done?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't listen and pray about this, you're done.
Next speaker, please.
Yes, sir.
Ken Cord.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Ken Cord and R.K. Caldwell.
Your study claims that the federal government will be paying for 50% of the light rail via the grants. The other 50% will come from state and the city, paying 25% each. However, that's a complete farce. The grants, taxpayer money. State taxes, we just paid income taxes, and then we're going to have city taxes. So yes, taxpayer all the way around. Get ready to grab your ankles. What about all those families who are living where you want to build? Yeah, you smile, but it's not funny. Are you going to bully them into accepting a low-balled figure for their property? Are you going to throw them out into the street on their homes by means of eminent domain? What about blighting their property? Sure, you're going to do that. The study is only 5% complete, and yet it cost the taxpayers $6.6 million. If it was 100% completed, it would be $132 million for a study. Why was this study only 5% complete? I truly believe this is an attempt to paint the light rail in rainbows and unicorns as a way to crystallize, which I have, public opinion, written by Edward Bernays. He was born in 1891 and lived till 1995. Was a pioneer in the field of propaganda and public relations, combining theories on crowd psychology and psychoanalytical ideas of his uncle Sigmund Freud to become the first thinker to explain how corporations and politicians could manipulate public opinion. His seminal 1928 book, Propaganda, which is here, laid out how it could be used to regiment the collective mind in a variety of areas, including government, politics, art, science, and education. A seminal artwork on how public opinion is created and shaped. Edward Bernays' 1923 classic Crystallizing Public Opinion set down the principles that corporations and government have used to influence the public attitudes over the past century. And now last night I found out I live on the edge of one of your SGAs. Remember my face when you guys decide to expand it. Because you guys will take my parents' property. Part of the American dream. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. RK, we're glad to have you here tonight.
Chris Stone is next.
Good evening.
Good evening.
There's a dark cloud hanging over the city council right now. There are ongoing investigations by appointed state special prosecutor, a federal investigation by the FBI, and a sitting federal grand jury over conflicts of interest of several members of this council. Although all council members are not under investigation, this dark cloud is hanging over the whole council. So I'm asking this council to table all unnecessary projects until this is resolved. The council should let the people of Virginia Beach decide on light rail. You work for us. There is too much money at stake and way too many conflicts for the people not to have the last word. Council needs to have clean hands. Public trust needs to be restored. It's going to be interesting to see who owns the land around the light rail stops. The study is complete and it appears this is not a good deal for Virginia Beach. Now, somebody on council needs to make the motion for a referendum, simply an up and down vote on light rail, before another taxpayer dollar is spent. What I find amazing is when council wants to do one of public-private partnerships, they seem to find the money. But when the police officers and the firefighters and the teachers need a raise, there becomes a need to raise taxes.
That's you, Mr. Jones.
Really?
That's you.
I cannot remember council ever raising taxes for one of its public-private partnerships. It always seems the way to find the money for them. Council should not be raising taxes and fees in a struggling economy, especially when some citizens are having a hard time getting by, and that is just not right. The dark cloud must be removed from this council, and steps must be taken so it won't ever return. Public trust is at an all-time low, and it needs to be restored. John Earn, I agree with the pilot. You should have never voted on the Cavalier project. For that, sir, you should resign from office. And there are many other council members here that have conflicts as well, and you know who you are. Mr. Mayor, you said on multiple occasions you love your bank and you love your city and you would do nothing to harm them. You did the right thing by the bank by resigning. Now it's time for you to do the right thing for the city by resigning. For as long as you sit on this city council, this dark cloud will not go away. Remember, our lives are defined not by our mistakes, but what we do after our mistakes. You must table this vote now. Mr. Mayor, have you no shame, do the right thing, and help remove the dark cloud off this city council. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. We welcome you tonight.
Chris Stone and Arthur.
Mayor
Gonzalez.
Sessoms, members of council, my name is Chris Stone, and on behalf of the 290 employees from Clark Nixon who live, work, and play in Virginia Beach, I'm here tonight to ask for your support for the Virginia Beach Light Rail. Simon Sinek, a proclaimed author and public speaker, is an unshakable optimist. He believes in a bright future and our ability to build it together. His premise is that people are not inspired by what you do, but why you do it. I support his optimistic attitude, so instead of focusing on the what and the how of light rail, I would ask you to think about the why. Why is now the right time for Virginia Beach to invest in light rail? I believe in order for Virginia Beach to continue to grow and prosper, that all of our residents need to and should demand a multimodal transportation system. This includes streets that are walkable, bike paths, buses, and yes, even light rail, to move us beyond our dependency on the automobile. Suburbs are becoming urban centers. Without a multimodal transportation system, the city will eventually reach a tipping point where our growth, in fact, our quality of life, will become so dependent upon a single mode of transportation, the automobile, that it will be the city's Achilles heel. Like my parents, I believe that we have a responsibility to future generations, and providing a multimodal form of transportation is critical for our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. It would be irresponsible for us to pass off the hard decisions we should make today and place that burden on future generations. I believe that Virginia Beach is in danger of losing its intellectual capital. In recent years, high-tech companies have taken a decidedly urban turn. Compared with previous generations, today's younger techies are less interested in owning cars and big houses. They prefer to live in central locations where they can rent an apartment and use transit or walk or bike to work, and where there are plenty of nearby options for socializing during non-work hours. This is one of the key reasons why Clark Nixon relocated its headquarters to Town Center. If we're going to have long-term sustained growth and prosperity, we need to connect all people from over the city and from across Hampton Roads. That means multimodal transportation opportunities to the oceanfront, major shopping and employment centers, and eventually one day to Old Dominion University, the naval base, and the airport. So before you start asking yourself what and how, ask yourself why Virginia Beach needs a multimodal transportation system for its residents. I think the answer is quite clear. Finally, we look to you for the city's vision and the courage to act. In 1982, when Lewis Jones was mayor, the Virginia Beach City Council voted to fund its own water supply. The plan was ambitious, extremely expensive, and not particularly popular. Nonetheless, Virginia Beach decided to fund and build a $200 million pipeline to Lake Gaston. Today, that 76-mile pipeline supplies every drop of water that Virginia Beach uses. In the words of the late Myra Obendorf, Lake Gaston breathed new life into the city of Virginia Beach. Imagine if that city council had not acted with vision and courage, and what the impact would be today. So I'm asking you to have vision and the courage to support one link in the multimodal transportation system for our residents that will breathe new life into the city of Virginia Beach, keeping it amongst the greatest cities in the world.
Thank you very much for coming down, and thank you for bringing your company to Virginia Beach.
Arthur Gonzalez?
Next speaker.
Yes. And the next one is Joseph Marazzo.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Same to you.
Before my retirement, I was on the corporate staff of 2 Fortune 500 companies. I was a financial analyst in advanced product planning and corporate development. In other words, I was asked to plan the future of these Fortune 500 companies. I am no expert on light rail. And so what do? When I try to make my decision, I go to an expert that has no axe to grind. He will make or lose nothing. I can't think of a better person than Dr. Cook. For 15 years, he has analyzed the economy of Hampton Roads. And the governor has just asked him to analyze the economy of the state of Virginia. And what does Dr. Cook have to say? There will be no significant traffic benefits for light rail. There will be no significant development. Now, as I mentioned, president of ODU, PhD in economics, he ought to know what he's saying. Now, I have not heard anybody talk about buses. I asked whether light rail was better than buses. No way was it better. Buses are more flexible. I'd like to know what the cost of the buses would be. We had an eloquent speaker last week who pushed for buses. The only thing that I can figure is the nostalgia flu. Back about 70 or 80 years ago, they were ripping up tracks in Norfolk. And now, what do we want to do? We want to put them all over the place. Now, what do you want to do? Get yourself a Bing Crosby record, maybe Mae West, maybe Charlie Chaplin. That will bring back some nostalgia to you. Okay, what should be done? We should have a new vote. Number 2, if you vote now, Mayor Sessoms, have the decency to recuse yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Joseph Marazzo and Barbara Metzger.
Madam Clerk, could you please
We welcome you
repeat your name?
tonight, sir.
Joseph Marazzo.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Sessoms, Vice Mayor Jones, Manager Spohr, and honorable members of the City Council. My name is Joseph Marazzo. I live near the Virginia Beach campus of Tidewater Community College. I work in the Emergency Planning Office of the Virginia Beach Department of Public Health. I'm a volunteer with the Virginia Beach Community Emergency Response Teams and the Virginia Beach Medical Reserve Corps, to which I devote an average of 4 to 20 hours per week. My primary means of transportation is Hampton Roads Transit, which is why I'm here to express my support for the proposed transportation project. I am also here to issue a challenge to the naysayers of this project. For the next 30 days, leave your vehicles at home and exclusively use public transportation to go to and from work, school, doctor's appointments, and all other errands you would normally attend to. Those with the courage to accept this challenge will have a better understanding of why the proposed expansion is necessary. To the members of City Council worried about paying for this project, I would personally be willing to pay an increased fare to help finance it. I would also propose installing forward-looking cameras on all buses to capture the license plate data of the people who routinely and recklessly cut off the buses. This information would then be used to issue tickets to the offenders with a fine of $100 for a first offense, $250 and license suspension for a second offense, and $750 for a third offense, along with license revocation and a brief period as a guest of the city jail. I further suggest that the offenders also be reported to their respective insurance providers. I realize this will not be popular, but it will serve the dual purpose of helping pay for the expansion and make our streets a little safer. In conclusion, as I see it, we have a choice. We can boldly walk into tomorrow by building the expansion, or we can wallow in the self-pity of yesterday and keep the status quo.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Barbara Messner. Julie Gifford.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Managers, and City Attorneys. First, this public hearing did not have 2 weeks advertising in the Beacon. It was only advertised one time this Sunday, May 3rd. Before any of you discuss this item, have you asked for legal opinions on conflicts from the Commonwealth Attorney or the Attorney General's Office as per Section 2.2, 3100 through 3131? You cannot discuss or vote on any item where you have even a potential of conflict of interest. Are any of you stockholders in Town Bank, Hoffman Beverage, Berkshire Hathaway, Wells Fargo, Gold Key, Clear Channel, Dixon Hughes Goodman, et cetera, et cetera? Mr. Wood, can I remind you that your son works for Wilcox Savage? They've been hired for both the Arena and the Cavalier project. Obviously, these people haven't been here. This wasn't the first time it was brought up. How many of you can legally discuss or vote on projects using taxpayer dollars, especially supermajority votes for light rail in the Arena? Mr. Bobby Dyer, you are backing off on light rail, but not the Arena. Light rail funds of $20 million is a drop in the bucket to the hundreds of millions Council has already spent. The vote was for a study, not for light rail. We should not have another referendum, in my opinion, because no means no. We, the people, have never voted for light rail. As per the amendment to eminent domain law in 2012, the city cannot use any land taken by eminent domain taken for parking and the convention center and then use this land for private developer project. The arena at the same location has not been funded by any bank. There is no term sheet, no contract, and the location at Birdneck and 19th Street. You should vote not to spend the $36 million on the arena and the $20 million, take the $20 million out of the budget for the, sorry, there's been some great speakers, on the light rail. That would give you $56.1 million for our police, fire, rescue, and teachers. The light rail and the arena are in the jet crash and noise zone. It's only a matter of, from the Mayfair Muse crash to the arena site in lots of our schools, Virginia Beach, Junior, Cook, this is not the location that the Navy BRAC gave you money to spend.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Julie Gifford and Carolyn McPherson. Julie Gifford and Carolyn McPherson.
We welcome you tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Sessoms and council members. I obviously support light rail, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for your hard work on this very important issue, and I hope you will continue to do that next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Carolyn McPherson and Franklin Babonis.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, thank you. I'm Carolyn McPherson, and I've been a proponent of light rail for some time, as many of you know. There was a referendum. I remember having a discussion with Mr. Moss right after that, and he said the citizens have spoken. They have said that they are in favor. I've worked for years for nonprofits representing people in our community who need voices, who often have to take public transportation, who often have struggles with finding affordable housing. And I can tell you in my years of working with them that finding multimodal ways to create transportation for our community is vital for their day-to-day survival and day-to-day existence. I think that you have shown leadership in many ways, starting with Lake Gaston, starting actually with the formation of the city of Virginia Beach to make it the beautiful and wonderful and greatest city in the world that it is today. I encourage you to continue to be forward-looking, forward-thinking for the future of many generations of people who want to live and work and play in Virginia Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Next
Right.
speaker, please.
Bonus,
Yes,
Jean.
Mr. Moss.
I
Excuse
just want to speak for the record. I said that the public said they wanted us to take all reasonable means, and they've spoken. What reasonable is the judgment of the people up here. I did not say the words favor. That's not what
Thank
the
you.
ballot said.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Hey, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Moss.
Members of council, floor. My name is Franklin Babonis. I'm a lifelong resident of this city. I took a 25-year break on vacation in the Marine Corps. Got to see Southeast Asia and everything, but okay. We're talking about light rail.
God bless you.
My daddy once told me, got to spend money to make money. You spend it wisely, you'll make it tenfold. I think you can. I think I'm an expert in the light rail. I built the darn thing in Norfolk. I've spent 4 years out there building it.
We'll be respectful to each other, please.
Spent
Carry
4
on.
years out there digging through blue mud. Government centers, you call city halls, a trash dump. Harbor Park is an old oyster shell bed. York and Butte Street, if the engineers had actually went around and looked at the city history of Norfolk and saw that there's still railroad tracks underneath Granby Street, Monticello, Charlotte Street, York Street, Butte Street, everywhere you go down the light rail, guess what we found out there? We found an old cobblestone road bed, put it back there years ago. So yes, was it cost overruns? Yes, there was cost overruns. You know why? Because of the fact that the core drillings weren't done right. We put stuff in, we took stuff out. We had to put flowable fill in the darn thing to build it, to make it so it'd be steady. But you know what? That light rail is running down there. Everybody spent 4 years, 5 years yelling and screaming, nobody's gonna ride the light rail. But guess what? Go down to Harbor Park, when anytime there's a good thing going on, guess how many people on that light rail? It's packed. They say we ain't gonna have ridership. Oh yes, we will. We will have it. There was a movie that came out one time, I think James Earl Ray was in it, and Kevin Costner, building it where they will come. Well, I say, build it and they will ride it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Jeannie Evans Cox and Dan Heatwell.
We welcome you tonight.
Mayor Sessoms, Vice Mayor Jones, members of council, I'm Jeannie Evans Cox, and I've been here all my life. And it's a great city. It's that time. It's an exciting time. It's time to bring the tide to Virginia Beach. It's time to fulfill our vision and your vision for your constituents. It's time to move our city forward. It's time to put Virginia Beach on the map with Charlotte and Denver and many, many other cities who are progressing due to their transportation initiatives. It's time to embrace your 2040 vision for our city. You know it's not for me, and it's not for you. It's for our children, and in my case, for my grandchildren. I'm not going to be brave like my friend Nancy Creech and give you my age, but I'm somewhere between a millennial and 84. But it's time to make a decision. Please, please fund light rail and bring it to town center. The time is now. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Dan Heatwell. And Colby Raymond.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, City Manager Spoor. First off, I'd just like to thank you all for your service and the incredible tolerance that you show at these hearings. My name is Daniel Heatwell. I'm a resident and a businessman in Virginia Beach, and I'm here representing the Central Business District's Young Leaders Groups, the CBDX, and I'm here to ask you to select Town Center as the locally preferred alternative for light rail, and to thank you for including the funding for the next step of the light rail process in the upcoming city budget. Extending the tide to Town Center is a logical choice for Virginia Beach. Connecting downtown Norfolk and Town Center, the two major business nodes in Hampton Roads, will be a great step forward for our region's economy. Tonight we may be in the old Princess Anne Municipal Center, but we are no longer just a suburban county. Virginia Beach is the most populous city in the state of Virginia. The decision to extend light rail to Town Center is our opportunity to act as a leader in both the region and in the state. Extending the tide to Town Center will help the central business district continue to grow, bringing new jobs, entertainment options, and residences to the city. It will allow Virginia Beach to serve as the regional hub for any future mass transit extensions or even the transition point to future transportation technologies which may arise. Extending the tide to Town Center will also help bring the city's strategic growth plans to life. These strategic growth plans represent a great vision for our city, and light rail is a necessary investment to help them succeed. The state has committed $155 million to this project, with another $30 million in low-interest loans. This $185 million will kickstart this investment in our city. I always say saying no to something means saying yes to something else, and that's the same with this extension. Saying no would tell the business community that Virginia Beach is not a forward-thinking city. It would say to my generation that Virginia Beach is not willing to invest in its future. I, for one, do not believe that is who we are. So I'm here tonight to thank you for funding the next steps of the light rail process in the upcoming budget, and to ask you to select Town Center as the locally preferred alternative. Thank you for your leadership to this city as we continue to strive to be the greatest city in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker,
Colby
please.
Raymond and Jesse Welch.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and ladies and gentlemen of City Council. My name is Colby Raymond, and I've lived in the Fairfield section of Virginia Beach for the last 7 years. I am currently the current membership chair for the CBDX, the under 40 group for the CBDA. As a mortgage banker, I am happy to lend within our community to help home buyers purchase their first homes all the way to their dream homes. While raising the real estate tax will crunch my numbers, it leads to more development in the city. Sitting in the meeting last week, I realized how many people do not understand how tax assessments truly help Virginia Beach be the thriving community it is, but also play an effect to their real estate equity. Assessments are based on sales within a neighborhood during a given time frame and are analyzed on an annual basis. If one assessment has risen, it is likely due to an increase in sales prices within one's neighborhood, bringing an upswing to our housing market. Yes, people are paying more, but their homes are also gaining value as well. Assessments are not raised or lowered based on the needs for the city's tax revenue. Only the current rate will generate funds for the future that we need. Virginia Beach already has the lowest tax rate in the 7 cities area. Raising the tax by 6 cents per hundred will still keep us 5 cents under the closest tax rate of $1.04 for parts of Suffolk. Light rail is the next step to our future. Bringing light rail to the Virginia Beach Town Center will connect the 2 major downtowns in coastal Virginia. With the presence that Virginia Beach is making in the global business arena, we must have transportation systems that will compete with other major cities in the United States. Virginia Beach offers top-notch schools, wonderful public amenities, a strong-rooted business community, and of course, miles of beautiful coastline. With your approved budget, we will now be able to offer a viable public transportation system for the future. Raising the tax rate to 99 cents per 100 will generate funds we need to continue the study on light rail, but will also give our city's teachers, first responders, and public servants a much-deserved raise. We must continue our momentum in building this great city to an even better future. To the members of this City Council who have approved the pending budget changes, I applaud you for looking to our future of this wonderful city. With your great leadership, Virginia Beach will continue to thrive for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jesse Welch, Ashby Moore. Ashby.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of City Council. I had a pretty long and intricate speech written up until I got emailed an article today that informed me that you guys, 9 of you at least, have decided to move forward with a budget that includes funding for light rail. So I took that speech and I threw it away because I don't feel like we need to do any more convincing. I feel like those of you that are willing to stand up and make a difference have heard what we want and are willing to do what's necessary to lead and to be visionaries for this city. So to make a long story short, because we've got a lot of people here tonight, I just want to thank you all for being willing to stand up, for being willing to lead, for being courageous. And I definitely look forward to, in the near future, seeing an article in the Virginia Pilot titled similarly to today's front page, which says, Norfolk says it's all thanks to light rail. I'd like to see that say Virginia Beach says it's all thanks to light rail in the future. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Jack Shulman.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Mars. I'm the creative director for Tavares Real Estate in the town center of Virginia Beach. I'm a member of the CBDX and an advocate for the Central Business District. I'm also the vice president of Norfolk's Downtown 100 and a member of the Norfolk Arts District Planning Committee. I've spent the last 2 years helping to create synergy between young professionals in Virginia Beach and Norfolk through educational events, networking engagements, and attending focus groups on what lies ahead. Young professionals want to live in walkable, bikeable, transit-oriented communities. We want safe and reliable and trusted options in place for ourselves and for our children. We want a modern marketplace that supports and grows small businesses. It's time to blend our city lines so we can flourish as one region that embodies everything millennials are attracted to. If you want the talent that prospers in this region to remain in this region, start by demonstrating that you value what we value. This begins with supporting the Tide extension. I should also mention I'm a resident of Norfolk. My husband and I purchased our home in the Ghent area of Norfolk 2 years ago, just a few blocks away from the last Tide stop. We have taken the light rail to restaurants on Granby Street, to Tides games in the MacArthur Mall, and I have used it on several occasions to get home sooner when the traffic is backed up on 264. Let's get everyone home sooner. It's time we improved the commute so we can spend more time with our families. These families are the future. We're here knocking on your door. Please let us in.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Josh Shulman. Josh Shulman. Josh. And Catalina Burkett.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, honorable council members, and distinguished staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Josh Shulman. My wife and I are Virginia Beach residents. I'm a business owner and an attorney, and I'm also president of the CBDX, a group of 82 young professionals and future leaders of our community based in the Virginia Beach Central Business District. My wife and I moved here from Michigan 8 years ago after spending a couple years in Washington, D.C. So I experienced two regions that chose to deal with their transportation solutions in very different ways. For anyone visiting D.C., you know exactly how easy it is to get around on the metro. I lived downtown for 2 years, didn't own a car, didn't need one. It was amazing. Slowing down and getting out from behind the wheel actually caused me to learn more about the city and to better appreciate my surroundings. It had the effect of scaling down the size of what seemed like a huge city, because it is, because it connected neighborhoods, tourist destinations, and commercial centers with one another. Detroit, on the other hand, is the home of the automobile, suburban sprawl, and the long commute to work. The metro area is scattered into separate communities, and it takes 45 minutes to get just about anywhere. Neighborhoods have little to no connection or interaction with one another. People get home after work and hibernate. I paint these two pictures for you today because the city of Virginia Beach is now faced with a tremendous opportunity to embrace the type of growth that connects communities with one another. We have the chance to connect two of our region's central business districts and to unleash all of the growth and development potential in between. I heard an amazing statistic the other day. It's estimated that 60% of our city's anticipated growth is going to occur in only 20% of its land area. That's incredible if you think about it. And the vast majority of that land area is within the city's strategic growth corridor. Why not supply this growth corridor with an outlet and a choice when it comes to moving people from A to B? Now, is light rail going to solve all of our city's transportation problems? No, of course not. You can only build so many roads, and even if you do build more roads, our population is going to continue to grow. Light rail helps solve this problem by moving the supply to where the demand is. And it also means increased tax revenue from transit-oriented developments as they sprout up and thrive along the light rail corridor. It would give our residents not only an amenity, but a real public benefit. Now, do these benefits come at a price? Of course they do. The state has kicked in over half the cost of this project for just about nothing. The rest is coming from us. An extra couple of cents on every $100 of assessed value should be a no-brainer in terms of the equation. Please support light rail, and I appreciate your activity.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker,
Caitlin
please.
Burkett. Allison Walsh.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Sessoms, council members, and City Manager Spoor. First off, thank you for the majority endorsement of the budget today to move forward with light rail and the inclusion. My name is Caitlin Burkett, and I am a board member with the Central Business District Association and an officer with its Young Professionals Division, the CBDX. Along with my colleagues and friends, support the expansion of light rail to Town Center, the locally preferred alternative. I work, live, and play in the greatest city in the world. That is to say, I'm a member of the city's workforce. I have lived the majority of my adult life in Virginia Beach, and of course, I value and enjoy everything the city has to offer, from our sunny beaches to the diversity of our small businesses. As a young professional and native of this region, I am one of a handful of millennials to come home and to build my life here. I chose to come home because my connection to Virginia Beach could never be broken. I chose to come back because I realized the quality of life in our city is unmatched by any other city in America. Light rail and a supportive public transit system will drive economic development, enhance the quality of life for all residents of Virginia Beach and the rest of Hampton Roads, and create jobs. For my colleagues and I, this is not about what light rail can do for us now. This is about what light rail will do for us in the future. And again, my comments were also cut down by all the proposed budget amendment this morning. So I just want to thank you for your time, your leadership, and your commitment to our wonderful city. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Allison. David Bickford.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening again, members of City Council, Mr. Spoor, Vice Mayor Jones, and Mayor Sessoms. I am Allison Welsh, the Sales and Marketing Manager for the Town Center of Virginia Beach. I spoke briefly last week to you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak again tonight. I am on the board of the Central Business District Association and the executive board for the Under 40 Leadership Group of the CBDA, the CBDX. I am an oceanfront homeowner, have been for 20 years, and the mother of 2 boys at Kemp's Landing Magnet School. Town Center tenants are very vocal. And one of the amenities of being a tenant located there is the open communication with me, the landlord, and city personnel. The office tenants, retailers, and restaurants of Town Center have expressed that they are overwhelmingly in favor of the light rail extension. The consensus is that light rail would be essential to our area for safe transportation, ease of traffic, and business growth, thus allowing for easy access to Town Center for patrons and visitors. On a personal note, I am a passionate proponent of light rail and also in support of the extension to Town Center and beyond to the oceanfront. I have been pro-light rail since the question was raised on the ballot a couple of years ago. I understood then that my taxes would have to increase to pay for it. At the time, I was a single mother and on a tight budget. I mention that because we all come from different socioeconomic backgrounds and experiences. However, it is our job as parents, business leaders, and citizens to secure and do what we can to provide a better future for our children. I believe in not only the growth and future for our beautiful city, but doing whatever we can to retain our talented youth. A 6-cent tax increase is worth it for our children. The return on our small investment is priceless. Thank you again for your time, and thank you for all that we do for our great city.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
David Bickford and Burl Saunders. David Bickford and Burl Saunders.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is David Bickford, and I'm the chairman of the Light Rail Committee of the CBDX. So all of our members have spoken eloquently tonight, so I'm not going to take up a whole lot of your time. I think it's a great day today. You guys have really put together something special. Not only is it a great day because you've chosen wisely on light rail, but, well, today's my birthday.
Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. So 37 years ago, I was born in Norfolk General Hospital. I'm still, and I love this city so much that I decided to stay. We had a long speech planned, but we kind of threw that out the window. I'd like everyone to just please hold up their flags, their pro-light rail flags. So just to let you know how greatly you've chosen, the hands that hold these flags are of every generation. They are of Generation X. They are of Generation Y. They are of every ethnicity, black and white and disabled. And I don't think you'll find that in the opposition. So in closing, I'd like to just give the opposition a big round of applause today. So thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Earl Saunders and Mike Ashenhill.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, Jim Spoor. I'll be brief, but what I wanted to remind you of is over the last half a decade, the citizens of Virginia Beach have engaged in planning the SGAs. We've had public meetings. We've had a lot of thousands of hours of input from the citizens. And one of the overwhelming things that came out of those workshops and sessions was the desire to have a walkable city, a multimodal city, a city of the future, a 21st century city. And it was overwhelmingly important to them that there be a mass transit system in it. In order to get people in a pedestrian situation, they have to be able to move from one district to another district. And this starts to connect those districts that we have here in Virginia Beach. We have, if you go into some of the SGAs, the Pembroke SGA in particular, you'll find we have a lot of abandoned parking lots. We have old construction sites that are in fallow. And we have the opportunity to take this 1,500 acres and turn it into a really great place to live. So thank you for your support. Thank you for being brave and making the decision to invest in light rail, because light rail has proven in other cities to be a fundamental investment that caused economic development to occur around it. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mike and Nancy Kraft.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Spoor, Mr. Stiles. We all have visions. I had a vision, and I'm sure all of you had visions also for light rail. 3 years ago, we all had a vision that the referendum to ask City Council to use all reasonable efforts to secure money to extend light rail, the tide, into Virginia Beach would pass, and it did overwhelmingly. Second, that the Secretary of Transportation would be somebody that understood our problems and would work very hard to try to help us solve our transportation problems. We got Aubrey Lane. Great decision. Third, that the new governor would also understand, Aubrey Lane would talk to him, and he would come across and do what was necessary by the state to help us fund light rail. That happened. Fourth, money would come to the city of Virginia Beach to help our city build light rail. $155 million, half of the cost. We were hoping to get federal funds. That isn't going to happen. We're getting state, same money. What's the difference? None. Fifth, money would come from the state to help Virginia Beach pay for the Norfolk Southern right-of-way. It was $40 million, the smartest thing we ever did. You talk about vision, that was vision. $20 million came from the state. Six, money would come from the federal government to complete the 30% engineering phase of the light rail study. That's where we are now, and federal money is there, and that will do the study. The seventh thing is the bus system. If we pass light rail, and we in fact start light rail as the next feeder line in this area, we will greatly improve our bus system. We will have to. We will have to have a feeder bus system that will work towards the light rail stations. We need a very much improved bus system to help those that are in most need. Eighth, we will have tremendous economic growth around every station. Charlotte, North Carolina, and I think that's comparable to the city of Virginia Beach, not Washington, not New York, Charlotte. $1.8 billion of new development around their light rail stations. In fact, right now, they're getting ready to double their light rail line. 7,000 new homes, 1.8 million square feet of retail. $24 million in new tax revenue. What does that mean? Well, in Virginia Beach, for every 5 million, that's a penny. If we had another 24 million in taxes coming in, you wouldn't need this tax increase. We need economic growth. This is how we get it. Don't waste this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Legacy, make this your legacy. make it mine, and make it out for the people that are out there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Clark.
We-
And Gordon Parker.
We welcome you tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. I spoke last week, and I think this week, what I really want to say is I am one of the residents that have been here most of my life, and I have seen it grow from a nice farmland, which I dearly miss, to what it is today. And I had some trepidation when it became the city of Virginia Beach because I wasn't sure where it was going. And I knew that as any new city, there would be bumps along the way. And I've been very pleased with the way it's turned out, as long as you just keep my farmland now. But I think that the next step is in the motion now in terms of trying to extend the light rail. Norfolk started the starter rail, and it was only a starter. It's not going to have a huge number of people attending it because it doesn't go that far. But we're taking the next step, I hope. This is my plan, is to take the next step. I had the privilege to attend a meeting in Norfolk about a month ago, and our city manager, Mr. Spohr, was attending. It was talking from Virginia about the high-speed rail and plans that Virginia's making in terms of connecting Hampton roads to the rest of the country, especially the Northeast corridor. And to me, this is something really big, and we need to be a part of that. We need to have the connectivity in Virginia Beach to get to the rest of the world. And Hampton Roads is an ideal place to do this. We have a beautiful harbor. We have lots of activities going on, and Virginia Beach is in a prime place to start moving forward and support our regional plan in terms of transit. We need multimodal, we need bike paths, and I know the city of Virginia Beach has been working on bike paths, multimodal transportation, and I support your movement in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Gordon Parker and Michael Fidel.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you. Keep this brief, but to the point. Most of you, so you know me, I'm a fourth-generation resident in this community. Returned from Hampton, Sydney in 1989. Not many of my friends are here anymore. Why? Because there was not a lot of opportunities. You also know if you're not a large business owner, you don't make a lot of money in this community. We don't have a lot of high-paying jobs. So more to the point, light rail's about our children, really my friends' children right now, and my children's children. Where do we go in the future? It's obvious the millennials want a place where they can live, work, and play, and this is how we make it happen. So I just want to thank you for your support tonight. Continue moving forward and supporting light rail, and continue to be leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Michael Fidel and Kenny Golden.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Good evening, City Council members. Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your time. I am opposed to the light rail being extended to Town Center. Voters in 1999 did overwhelmingly reject the proposed light rail system. I know people are touting the 62% vote about people wanting the study of light rail conducted and any reasonable measures, but I think, as Mr. Moss mentioned, I think reasonable at this point does need to be defined. When you start talking about $150 million in taxpayer money, reasonable, I think, needs to be discussed at that point. Light rail, I'm hearing, costs $6.2 million a year just to operate, and if you start extending that thing, you're talking about higher operating costs. So you got to turn more than $6.2 million a year just to earn a dime of profit on this thing. Light rail cost $106 million over budget for the first original light rail going from Norfolk to Newtown Road. So that was literally 50% over the original budget. 50%. You were apparently expecting to pay $212 million, and then $318 million was the eventual cost. So that being said, nobody's really talking about how much it's going to cost to extend this thing all the way to Virginia Beach, which is pretty much already in the bag, a done deal with most of you people, despite not having a public vote on this. So going all the way to Virginia Beach at the 19th Street Convention Center is probably going to cost upwards of $800 million. If you now combine that with the cost of this current extension just going to Town Center, you're now talking about billions of dollars. And if we can expect the same margin of error to occur with the previous bid, then you might be looking at $1.5 billion when this is all done and getting to the beach. And if this thing's such a done deal, I don't understand why some private businesses can't get in and bid on this thing, because then everybody would win. You get the light rail, we don't have to pay the taxes on it, and if this development's in the bag, then it's going to fuel it for the city, and everybody, I think, wins. So I don't understand why that wasn't even really, talked about. Let's see. So I say put it to a vote. I mean, and just a clear vote to the people. Do you want to pay higher taxes for a $1 billion light rail? Meanwhile, the trash bill's going up, the water bill's going up, sewage and disposal is going up, real estate tax is going up. I almost feel like, and this kind of hurts, it's like you're telling me you know what's best for me and you've already decided for me because I'm apparently not, knowledgeable. I'm too inept to make the decision for myself. And it's hard to believe any budget decisions, coming from a council who took $48 million from the public schools a couple of years ago. Vice Mayor Jones said we didn't need that money. We were squirreling it away. Now we're looking at a $15.1 million shortfall. So I think if we're going to address anything, it should be the things that the public needs, not necessarily light rail. I don't hate the idea. I just don't think now is the time, especially with, the things going on with, investigations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming down. Next speaker, please. We welcome you tonight, Mr. Golden.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, and Jim. Good to see you again. I come in support of the Virginia Beach Transportation Working Group's work that they've done on the DEIS, the Draft Environmental Impact Statement. I do not support light rail as it's currently configured here in Virginia Beach. I will tell you that when I stood outside and opened the door and the gentleman was up here first said, how many of you support light rail? And all the folks hold your plaques up. I support light rail. They all held their plaques up. But if you change that statement to no matter what the cost, no matter that it's going to put us in debt, no matter that it's never going to be sustainable, those cards start to go down. Francie's not watching the television tonight, so I can tell you, I want a brand new F-350 crew cab, diesel, pickup truck, 4x4. And I Googled some stuff to find out, and sure enough, Beach Ford called me and wanted me to come down, and I just had to kind of pass off on him, even though I know Tom real well, because she said the cost is $38,000. I don't have the money. I'm going to have to bump along in my 1991 F-250 diesel where the windows don't work, that it needs a paint job. We're not in the same case here in Virginia Beach. We have an opportunity to do the study, and let me quote what the Virginia Beach Transportation Working Group has said. It recommends that the draft environmental impact study not be accepted and that the Federal Transportation Authority direct HRT to add an additional alternative, increasing the frequency of bus service on the existing roadway and forecasting the impact of adding frequency of bus service and roadways to come online between now and 2034. Also to add those feeder lines and to determine, this is a way to determine where light rail should go. I would submit to you that the Virginia Pilot got one thing right in their article that they wrote a month ago, and that is that light rail has to be a regional, and I'm talking about all of Hampton Roads. If it isn't a regional case and the federal government doesn't heavily subsidize it and it doesn't move something besides moving people, it will never work for us, and your legacy will not be a great one for the city and the children of Virginia Beach that are growing up now. It'll be one of heavy debt. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please. We welcome you tonight, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor. I stand before you again.
Yes, ma'am.
City Councilmen, members, I'm Deborah Grant, as most of you know. and I live at 5636 Darlington Court in Virginia Beach. As a leader of the local Southampton Rose, Virginia organizing, we got the proclamation this night. So we are committed to all things for the common good of our community. I speak on behalf of the group, and not only behalf of the group of my family and my friends and my community, in fully endorsing the proposed Virginia Beach city budget, which addresses the needs of our community, to include the extension of the light rail to town center. This budget includes a vision for our community safety, investment in education, as well as concern for economical growth, transit, development, and sustainability for our city. As a public transportation rider, I know how important it is to have a strong regional transportation system. The current system that we have now is inadequate, with more than 1 million residents in transit offering. Please move forward with this vision for our future. I was in Kmart today at Town Center, and I was talking to a young person and an older person. I'll put it, a vintage person. And they were talking about how it is important that they be able to get around because they don't have reliable transportation. They have to catch the bus, or they either have to walk. And they was asking me to ask you all to do the right thing. And also I'm standing in support on behalf of them to do the right thing. Let us move to the future with light rail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker,
Jeannie
please.
Browder and Doc Wallace.
I can't understand. I can't understand who's calling.
We welcome you tonight.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Fine, hope you are.
Good, good. Prior to the November 6, 2012 election, there was a sign posted throughout Virginia Beach that read, "Vote yes on November 6 to the light rail study." Everybody remember this? This is what was on the ballot. We've heard it. Should the City Council adopt an ordinance approving the use of all reasonable efforts to support the financing and development of the Tide Light Rail into Virginia Beach? On April 20th, 2015, Shannon, at the third public hearing on light rail, I asked Julie Tim, HRT coordinator and one of the public hearing panelists, when the light rail study began. Virginia is a Dillon rural state, I suppose everyone knows. She told me it was 2008 when the General Assembly said, HRT, go study this. She also said it was 2009 when we actually started studying it. So the question then has to be, why would we have to vote yes on November 6th to study light rail? That ship had sailed. It's a sleight of hand which was unjustly presented to the public, and it's wrong. Shame on all of the elected officials, local, state, and federal, who held office while this deception was bestowed upon the people. Not one person stood up for what was right or what was true. When I asked a sitting delegate and former Attorney General candidate about this lie, which was plastered all over Hampton Roads, he cited First Amendment rights. This action has nothing to do with First Amendment rights. It's never okay to lie. We don't need an arena, and we don't need light rail to get us there. The only thing light rail is going to give future generations is more debt. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. How many folks in this audience took public transportation to this meeting? No one? Not one person. She's grateful. Don't wait those people. members have spoken.
Thank you very much. Come down. Next
Thank
speaker,
you.
please.
Rock Wallace and William Nader. Rock Wallace and William Nader.
We welcome you tonight. Thank you, City Councilman, City Manager Jim Spoor. Good evening. My name is Brock Wallace, and I'm a lifelong resident of Virginia Beach. I work as a healthcare consultant for Aerotics and Associates over in Norfolk, and I serve as president of the Hampton Roads chapter of the JMU Alumni Association. Great school. Over the past 25 years growing up in this city, I've seen it grow and evolve into a vibrant community, a place to live, work, and play. I made a conscious decision when I came back from college to settle down here as opposed to moving to a larger metropolitan area. I did so because I saw potential for growth, opportunity for myself, my future family, as well as that of my peers. I've seen urban centers like Town Center become a viable hub where one can do all of those activities. At this time, I'm seeking for this region to become a more walkable, multimodal-based community. Right now, I live out in Pongo, and I do intend to move into an urban center. But many individuals that I've talked to, they seek that lifestyle, and they want to be able to live a car-free way of life around here, which isn't always possible to do. I've seen far too many people leave this community, and it's time to really stop that. Looking forward to the future of Virginia Beach, we need to continue building a community for a lifetime and past that. And so it's time to invest further in our infrastructure. I thank you for coming to consensus earlier today on the budget, and I feel like that is a good step in the right direction. As we move forward, I urge that you continue looking towards extending light rail into Virginia Beach, whether that be to Town Center or the ocean front. Let's at least get it to Town Center at this time so that we can at least connect our two urban centers on the south side. So, thank you. Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
William Nader and Brian Pepson. William Nader.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Before I get started, I'd like to say thanks to Mr. Dwyer. We got Centerville Turnpike going. It's being repaved, so thanks for your support.
Thank our staff for that, too.
Okay, they get my thanks too. And that's from Alexandria, Charlestown, and the thousands of people the commuters that travel on that road. We thank you. We're still gonna wait on the 2 lanes, so.
That's it. More's coming.
I'm here to state that I'm against the tax increase. The real estate tax, utility, and the trash fees increased early this year. And in the meantime, my house value has gone down, all right? I'm paying a higher tax rate this year while my house is worth much less this year than last year. Yeah. And I ask you not to forget the pledge that you made to us when you came to our neighborhoods asking for our support during the election times. Okay? You pledged that you would look after our best interests if we supported you and elected you, and we did so. I ask you not to forget that pledge. The 6% tax proposal is against our best interests. All right? What the city manager has proposed is abusive, immoral, cruel, and mean. And I ask you all to please show some restraint. I'm running out of cash. But I do support pay increase for the public safety employees and the teachers. Those cops work hard. They deserve 10%, 20%, whatever we could give them, we should give it to them. And today's newspaper stated that the city has $95 million just sitting around, but putting around. They quoted you, man. In the article, they also quoted you, and you stated that it will cost $36 million to fund a 4% tax increase, $36 million to fund it. So that leaves, out of 95, 36 leaves $59 million. Right? Why don't you take that $59 million, you're looking that way, why is that? And use it to restructure the bus system. You know, build some commuter-friendly bus stops. Add more buses. Instead of building a light rail, why don't you just work on the buses, try to improve that system? Because I tell you, Virginia Beach is not, it's neither commuter-friendly nor pedestrian-friendly. We need sidewalks too, by the way. I mean, you guys talking about walking here and there. Yeah. So I'm against building a 3-stop light rail system that is going to
Thank you very much,
cost
sir.
$500 million.
Thank you for coming down. Next
Ask
speaker,
you once
please.
again, don't forget your pledge.
Thank you.
And Will Christopher. Brian?
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members, Mr. Spoor, Mr. Stiles. Let's continue to send the message that we get it, that we deserve first-rate infrastructure and amenities, that we have our tax dollars coming back to us. Let's demonstrate that, continue to demonstrate that we get what the millennials are asking for, we get what the future is, where the puck is going, and that we can work with our sister cities toward a greater good. A legacy decision by getting this right, by acting together. Let's send this message that Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads get it, and we're a vibrant and attractive community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Diane Howard?
Yes, ma'am. We welcome you again tonight.
Good evening. My name is Diana Howard, and I'm Vice Chair of the Virginia Beach chapter of the Hampton Roads Tea Party, and we oppose the extension of light rail into Virginia Beach as a revenue-sucking vehicle on our budget. While the city manager cites the challenges of balancing the budget with reductions in revenue from state and federal, instead of employing some budgetary restraints to balance it, something he is highly paid to do, he proposes raising taxes to continue spending $20 million in the CIP for light rail and setting aside $32 million in a new multimodal transportation fund. For those of you who have not read the light rail study, let me read you some excerpts. Appendix H, it states the estimates in this report has an accuracy rate of index of 4, which is equal to plus 40% to a minus 20% range. This is a huge variance. How can you seriously expect to budget for operating and maintenance costs with such an inaccurate calculation? This light rail out of control budget light rail needs to be taken out until this DIS is remediated. Also in it, it says the built alternatives would increase congestion in the study area at Pacific intersections, while other intersections would see an increase in congestion due to expected traffic volume growth regardless of any of the built alternatives. It also says the built alternatives would not be expected to directly decrease congestion on area roads from current levels. And the built alternatives are not expected to directly create economic growth within the light rail corridor. Now, I know the proponents are going to say that we have increased development in Norfolk, but how much, if any, has occurred because of light rail, independent of substantial subsidies? They've also said the ridership has increased. You can just go to HRT and see that ridership has declined for the last 3 years. The analysis of the improved traffic flow for the intersections indicates none of the major arteries or roadways are improved with any of the built options, and the only traffic improvement on local roads is due to additional traffic signals, reworking and retiming the existing traffic signals, or road improvements, same as the no build. Since any relief in congestion is due to these improvements with a backlog of almost $1 billion in unfunded road projects. Why is Virginia Beach even considering spending our limited resources on light rail, a project that even the report confirms does nothing to mitigate congestion but will increase it at numerous intersections?
Thank you very much for coming down. Good job. Next speaker, please.
George Donnelly and Reese Reynolds. George Donnelly.
We welcome you today, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to speak against light rail. One of the young men who was sitting there, he showed this article as pro-light rail. He's mistaken. If you look at this article, that should tell you light rail is not worth it. Aside from the audacity that Norfolk gives light rail credit for the new Midtown Tunnel, every development in this article is taxpayer subsidized.
That's right.
Where is the private development that we're looking for that they want our money for? They sold the light rail to Norfolk saying it will increase jobs, it will relieve traffic, and it will increase development. It has done none. And like Mr. Jones had said, with the road to Norfolk's outlet malls, engineers will tell you what you want to hear. But the sad thing is, they couldn't tell us what they want to hear because they already proved that it failed on everything they told Norfolk. Now, we've heard quotes from a lot of businessmen, but I've never heard any businessman say, hey, we'll pitch in to help. Even Clark Nexon said, the pipeline wasn't popular, but you look at our water bills, I see why it's not popular. Also, we see a lot of young people. One person from D.C. Why is he here? We don't have light rail. D.C. is so great. Stay there. Why try to make us D.C.? We're not D.C.
That's right.
Also, another lady compared us to Charlotte. We're not Charlotte. We're Denver. Or we're neither one of those. We are Virginia Beach. People love Virginia Beach because we are Virginia Beach.
Exactly.
We don't need to beat other cities. We're our own. The sad part is, the young man mentioned he had an email that said 9 of you have already decided. You're not going to listen to the people that vote. You represent us. We want you to protect our money. We don't want you to just throw it away. Norfolk, if you want to be like Norfolk, Norfolk loses money every day. Your friend who built the Hilton just robbed them of $100 million. Oh! He got them for $100 million. The gentleman that stood up here and said he built light rail, he stole $350 million. Quit giving my money away. If they want to build light rail, how many people that are for light rail will accept the TIF? Let's develop a TIF and let their money be raised. Amen. How many will you accept the TIF?
What about
None.
donating their property?
Put their money where their mouth is. Watch our money. We don't need it. We don't want it. Let Norfolk take it to the base. Let them do the right thing. Don't just come to Virginia Beach to take our money. It does nothing for us. The gentleman said, how come, just challenged us to ride.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next speaker, please. We welcome you tonight.
Good evening. My name is Reed Greenman. I live in Virginia Beach. My wife is a native, my daughter is a native, and my granddaughter will be born in 2 months as a native of Virginia Beach.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mayor. All of you know that I'm opposed to this project. I have actually read the study. I wish this was a court of law and you put all those people under oath, because a good lawyer would have come up here and said, objection, facts not in evidence. I never heard so much crap in my life. You know, unbelievable. I heard rhetoric after rhetoric, all unsubstantiated in the study. If you actually read the study, none of those things that they talked about are in the study. But more important is what they did tell you tonight. We do have a need for better and improved mass transit. I'm also a former member of the Central Business District Association and had my office in Town Center on the 6th floor of the Columbus One building. I'm a business developer, a businessman, and I've studied this thing for 13 years. What you need, this study, you got robbed $6.6 million. It doesn't give you any information about actually running buses along here and comparing that as a reasonable alternative to achieve the goals of the study. Then the study itself says, after blowing all this money, it doesn't produce any of the results you're looking for and all the things these people were talking about. How can you possibly do what you did if you actually read the study? Insane, absolutely insane. Now, I could talk and talk, and we don't have a lot of time, and you've heard me about this, and you've already made up your minds. So I'm just going to remind you of this one thing, and one gentleman did bring it up. Forget the initial cost you're going to blow at $100 million a mile to build 3 miles of train. Okay, forget that. You got to subsidize this in perpetuity. Not in your study, but in HRT's annual report. The cost to run buses, $89 an hour for HRT. The cost to ride the Tide, $328.23 an hour. And every one of us has to pay every dime of that in perpetuity for this stupid train. You want to talk about leaving my granddaughter Violet, her future, the millennials, all that crap? My granddaughter's going to be paying the debt on this, and it's not going to provide the benefits you're looking for.
Thank you.
Too late. You've already voted on it. You made a mistake.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Bill Dale.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Members of council, I'll abbreviate it. Virginia Beach, a community of a lifetime, doesn't exist solely to meet our own needs, but also keeps faith with our children and our children's children's needs. That's what makes this city noteworthy, and we make a grave error to mistake that or jeopardize it. When water was needed, as was stated, despite large cost, visionaries built a pipeline to Lake Gaston, gave us fresh water. Today, many people take it for granted, yet it was a great decision made by this body. The refurbishing of Atlantic Avenue and the dynamic re-imaging of the ocean front with a boardwalk and an expansive beach was met with cries from a small but vocal minority that this was simply favoritism being shown to one sector of our economy and of picking winners. You chose to make this happen. And now our beaches have won national acclaim, and we've all benefited from a strong tourist market. In the face of protest, you chose to proceed with the 31st Street development. Your investment and your decision has resulted in the creation of a new center for civic gatherings and the impetus for economic renewal and investment that is all-encompassing. And what about Town Center? It was a dream for 20 years. Trusting in your staff and in the wisdom of our business community, you made the decision not only to move it to fruition, but also to participate in its development. We remember well the cries of woe over an ill-advised investment. We witnessed the picketers and protesters over this misguided move into the private sector. Today, your decision has blossomed into a center of economic vitality, cultural significance, and civic pride that continues to affect development in its environs. Today, we continue on that journey to the future with another major decision before us. As in the past, there continue to be voices in our midst that counsel we should return to Egypt, where we might be secure in our lives. They would have us tell our children that instead of investing in the future, we should eat our seed corn. I say keep faith with our past and trust the good counsel of those who are not going to risk our AAA bond rating or jeopardize what remains the lowest property tax rate in the region. Trust those whose guidance has earned us an enviable record in public safety, education, the arts, and recreation. You are stewards of a proud record of leadership that does not rush blindly into the future, but also does not cower in the face of what might be. A choice for light rail signals that Virginia Beach is a community for a lifetime, ours and those who will follow.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, if I could.
Sure.
Mr. Dale, I like your biblical analogies, but a majority of the public did vote for the referendum to save the 31st Street Park. A minority chose to ignore that, so do I say that you're saying then you legitimize that people that have better wisdom than the ballot box making a decision, that that's okay?
I believe that the city council makes the decisions.
Oh, so, okay, I just want to make sure I understood what you're saying.
Thank you. Let's be respectful to each one for each own opinion. Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
David Williams and Frank.
We're glad to have you tonight, sir.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, this is, you have a lot on your plate. I can feel your pain. I can feel your pain. While I fully support efficient transportation systems, I have some concerns with light rail as it is proposed. Can you reasonably expect a 20-mile-an-hour trolley-like light rail system to provide needed transportation efficiencies for this city? This begs to be answered, honestly. As the city staff updates the important comprehensive plan for 2015-2020, what will be the City Council's vision for the city and for our future? More importantly, does City Council have the same vision as many of our residents? Will our city be a town of quality and durable structures or something less? We all want to live in an efficient, well-run, reasonably taxed community with quality transportations, high-speed internet for all, and a nearby strong and growing industry base providing good jobs for our residents. Our transportation systems must add quality to this town and reasonably support our businesses and our residents across a wide portion of our city without placing an undue tax burden on our future growth. Does the vision of our mayor and city council reflect our vision, the voters, or reflect the biased view of a few? A continuing cycle of tax and spend does not work if our tax dollars do not provide for quality and sustainable growth and business for this city. The cost of light rail will not support a viable city, nor the taxpayer's vision for 2040. Light rail will be an ever-increasing burden to us taxpayers. Light rail does not support our vision, but only the vision of a few. It will not add value to the city. It will only add increased tax burden. Too many people have said a lot of statements up here tonight that are not supported, and it really is unfair to those people up there trying to make logical decisions. But remember, just because you tell a lie 1,000 times, it does not make it the truth. Thank you, Brandon.
He's coming down. Next speaker.
Frank Nelson Kelly and Kim Whitley.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Good evening. My name is Frank Yaconello. I'm a small business owner in the Pembroke area. I've been a lifelong resident of Virginia Beach, me and my wife, 6 kids. It's a struggle. You know, I listened to everything tonight, and, you know, a lot of the things that are said negative towards the light rail, I can feel it. I tend to believe, though, that all great cities have multiple forms of public transportation, and I think you got to do it. I think that it's important, and I think that probably in the short haul, people will complain about it, but I think that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and beyond, you know, I think it will be appreciated. I believe that my saying is it's never cheaper to do than right now. I mean, you wait 5 years from now, 20 years from now, it's only going to cost more. You're heading down the road, let's do it, get it done, and I think everybody will appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Kim Whitley and Paul Murray.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience in listening, everyone. It's really been remarkable tonight listening to all the different varieties of facts and opinions and things that people bring to this case. Again, my name is Kim Whitley. I live at the oceanfront. I live in Shadowlawn. I've been a resident of Virginia Beach for 32 years. And I really learned a lot in the past year or so about light rail. See, another thing that's important to know about me is I'm an avid bicyclist as well. But when I went to, with a group down to North Carolina, down to Charlotte to check out their light rail and their system. And that really is a much better model that I think we're following along in our plans to consider as compared to the Norfolk light rail. Norfolk light rail has done some nice things, but I think the models that we see there are better because it's a much more vibrant community there. People are interactive, and to see in talking to the engineers and the planners there, the development that they have is just stunning. And to see that they have, and it's not all governmental stuff either. You see a lot of apartments, a lot of walkways and bicycle ways that travel along it. It's just a much more lively community there, and it really does bring to life and breathe life into the whole light rail system, and it makes it much more attractive as a means of alternate transportation and bringing people there. I've seen it firsthand, and after seeing it and seeing the growth that potential's there, I can be nothing but for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Paul Mary, initial with.
We welcome you tonight, sir. Yes, sir.
I'd like to congratulate the city council on making a lot of good decisions. I know it's hard to keep everybody happy all the time, so on and so forth. And I'm one of those guys that listened to Dr. Koch when I graduated from Old Dominion, and he does know the difference between various things. And his studies show that the railroad, or the light rail, is a non-revenue producing item for the taxpayers of Virginia Beach. By the way, my whole family is born and raised in Virginia, and I've been a taxpayer, federal, state, and local in Virginia Beach for 50 years. I should get some notices, but nobody ever asked me to do any of these surveys, even though I'm highly educated with a high IQ. However, my favorite movie is Forrest Gump. And I worked for 2 Class A railroads, God bless them. Both of them one headquartered in Portsmouth, the Seaboard Airline through the heart of Dixie, and the Norfolk and Western Railway headquartered in Norfolk, Virginia. So I do know a little bit about railroads, but I also know about articulated buses that was thrown in the study. We don't need buses that bend in the middle, like Volvo built at the $25 million plant that never built the first automobile in Chesapeake, because stupid is as stupid does. Therefore, all we need to satisfy any heavy traffic going to the ballpark, the Harbor Park, by the way, it was not built on a dump, it was built on Norfolk Yard of the Norfolk and Western Railway, where Union Station was. That's where the ballpark is built. So get your history facts straight before you say it was built, Harbor Park was built on a dump. And if you want more people to get to the base, you use the existing Virginian railroad track that goes to Sewell's Point, where the Norfolk operating base is. If you want to get to Little Creek operating base, you use the Eastern Shore Railway that runs twice, right by the airport, right behind that new mall that's going to go bankrupt, that they want us to build a road. The railroad track is right there. It's the old Pennsylvania track.
I love my job.
It goes on a car float. But anyway, if you need any more history lessons, remember what Mama said, and God bless all of you.
God bless you, too. Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
And next is Louis Gayton.
We welcome you tonight, ma'am.
Thank you. As an entrepreneur, a veteran, and a millennial, the things that I value are creation, innovation, connectivity, but most importantly, growth. And one of the biggest things that I notice talking to my fellow millennials and veterans, that they notice that this area, they feel it lacks potential and it lacks advancement. And one of those things that I absolutely appreciate is what the light rail exemplifies, which is growth and advancement and technology. One of the biggest things are a lot of the veterans and entrepreneurs and people, they tend to want to move out of this area. And if you notice that millennials and veterans are starting to become the two emerging markets or demographics for starting businesses and creating jobs and boosting the local economy. So for y'all to implement and, you know, proceed on with the light rail, that shows a lot of good integrity and definitely gets you in tune with the younger demographics and the veterans that are looking to move into cities that are well advanced. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Louis Gayton in Waverly Woods.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name is Louis Gayton, a 40-year resident homeowner in Virginia Beach. Vote no on a tax increase which includes funding for light rail at this time and obligates Virginia Beach residents to future unknown costs even if light rail is never built, i.e. a tax increase. Would you personally approve the initial funding of $100 of your children's money as down payment on a skateboard for your 5 children to play with, including $1 annually for each child, whether or not the skateboard is finally purchased? You must also realize the skateboard will cost a minimum of $1,650. That is the equivalent of $20 million a day spent for light rail compared to an estimated cost of $320 million. Also realize is not know how many of your 5 children will ride the skateboard, but all will be required to pay for the skateboard, whether they ride it or not. This is exactly what you will be doing if you approve light rail at this time. Would we not be better off initially to expand express bus service, not only between Town Center and Witchduck Road, but throughout the community? Please do not be bullied by special interest groups, the Virginia Secretary of Transportation, articles in the Virginia Pilot, or by letters sent to you by the mayor and Mr. Woods soliciting your vote for light rail. Time will be available later to fund and extend light rail once more refined cost data is available. Delaying economic development for a time is not detrimental. How can one vote funding for something for which one does not know the final cost, and also realize that the approval of light rail at this time is obligating Virginia Beach residents to an annual expense, i.e. a tax increase? Vote no on extending light rail or any light rail funding at this time until more refined cost data is available. Then put the decision up to a vote by Virginia Beach citizens to see if they approve the expense of light rail. In this way, you, City Council, will have properly done what the citizens voted for in 2012, a study. I repeat, a study of light rail, as seen on many T-shirts in this room tonight.
Thank you very much
Thanks for
for
your
coming
time.
down. Appreciate it. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Waverly Woods and Catherine Oran.
We welcome you tonight.
Well, hey, you got it right tonight. You didn't slur. That's awesome. Good
I'll
job.
do the best I can.
Long
Just-
night.
I'm glad to have you.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to point out, we have our study, our incomplete study. And I will read from it, Streets and Highways Network, Section 3.1. While the build alternatives would increase the transit options available by providing an additional mode of transportation, the build alternatives would not be expected to directly decrease congestion on area roadways from current levels. Shocking. And you want to approve it. You want to vote for it. You've already made your decision, so we're told. Pretty arrogant. Furthermore, as we see all of our signs and our stickers and our T-shirts and how well they've been printed, they don't pay for light rail either. The next thing is our teachers, our first responders are not obtuse. They know that a tax increase, Mr. Jones, is not a pay raise. Furthermore, I had a meeting with Congressman Ridgel this morning. There were several people there. The question of light rail came up to the congressman, and he said, well, that is a city council question. And someone in the audience said, well, federal funds are being used. And he said, yes, you're correct. Federal funds will be used. And they said, well, what's your position on light rail? And our congressman said, I do not see, and I will quote right here, I wrote it down. He said, I went down and I saw light rail and I wrote on it. It was virtually empty. Those were his exact words. Congressman Ridgel, who many of you like to tag your name on when you're up for re-election, doesn't support that. He said that the cost does not justify the need. Next, you are taxing the elderly beyond their life expectancy. They have fixed incomes, their homes are paid for, they have limited resources. You are strapping them out of their life expectancy. The woman that got up here earlier to speak said she supported light rail, and you can take someone else's property as long as you don't take her country property. She didn't have a problem with that. So my final words are, is the gentleman that came up and said he built light rail in Norfolk, for God's sakes, don't hire him to do anything. They're already 40 billion over debt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Next speaker. Ma'am?
Catherine Oran.
We welcome you, Catherine.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I am so happy to be here. You have no idea. You have absolutely no idea.
Well, we're very glad to have you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. What I'm really most concerned about, first of all, I want to thank everyone, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Mr. Moss, Mr. Dyer, other council members. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I only wish that what I was here to do was actually going to help. I kind of feel like I'm wasting my time. I've heard it over and over again. I see it on Facebook that you guys have already made your decision. I don't understand it. You know, a wise man once said, oh, someone's going to know this one. A wise man once said, when the benefits of public spending are focused on the few and the costs are spread to many, special interest usually wins. Yeah. I wonder who said that. Very wise man, though. Very wise man. And then, of course, I want to thank Mr. Moss, Mr. Dyer, for their efforts at attempting at holding back those special interests. You've done a good job. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I know everyone in here appreciates you as well. Thank you. Our first speaker said it very, very well. Our first speaker said that light rail will affect us, our children, and their children. Although they said it in a positive meaning that they wanted light rail, they were correct in meaning that it will affect everyone. It's going to affect their wallets. Every single one of them are going to have less money to go spend at these places that you want to build. So you build them, they have no more money to spend. It's ridiculous. Where do you think these businesses are coming from? You're going to move them from one location to the next. Well, what happens with the old buildings that they came from? They get boarded up, don't they? Then that neighborhood goes down. Then those people's property values go down. So you're not doing any good. You're tearing down selective parts of the city and building up other parts of the city, and hopefully Those people that knew when this was going to come down has already purchased property around where that light rail is going to be installed so they can benefit while everyone else loses. So special interest. Yes, one other speaker talked about that dark cloud that's hanging over your heads. Every single one of you. Not all of you are involved in this controversy, but there's 4 of you that are likely to go away in a very near future. 4 of you that are going to be indicted for your prior votes. Yet you continue to want to vote now on this. I say, just like another person stood up here and said, if you're not guilty of these things, why don't you just delay your vote a little longer? Wait and see if those indictments come down. Wait and see and do what is right and put the trust back into you. And if you don't, I'll tell you right now, every one of you that places a vote for light rail, I am
Thank you very
coming
much.
after you personally. I vote.
We appreciate that. Next speaker, please.
John Easton and Chris Brown.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, members of council. My name is John Eason, and I'm here to oppose budgeting money for light rail at this time. If you look at the Norfolk model, and they chose that model, we didn't choose it. It's actually a pre-World War II model. It's the same thing Norfolk had in their city back in the 20s and 30s and 40s. It's a fixed rail line with a rail car with a boom going to a power source, a DC motor. It's the same thing. It's just bigger and gussied up some, but there's no difference. It's the same model. It's a very expensive model. And they chose to build this, so why are we locked in? Because that's the model they chose, because they brought it to Newtown Road. Now we're expected to bail them out, because right now they got a light rail that goes nowhere, a little trolley train that goes nowhere. They stopped running trolley trains in Norfolk in 1948. And the reason they did it is because of the automobile. And people had cars, and they didn't ride it. Everybody in Virginia Beach has a car. Most people have 2, families. So is there really a ridership here? Is there really something you're going to gain? Then along comes the governor, his transportation secretary, and he holds a $155 million check out and says, you got to take this now or it goes away. That's like the car salesman. The deal's gone when you walk out the door. Okay, this $155 million, I see this as a bribe. It's a bribe to hook you up to the Norfolk system, or it's a political payback, or whatever it is. But it's something we ought to walk away from. $150 million a mile to get this thing to town center. And you know no one's going to be satisfied with that. They're going to want to go to Rosemont, Lynn Haven, all the way to the oceanfront. You're talking $1 billion. Who's going to pay for all this? Where's the money going to come from? And then come the upkeep. You got to keep it running. And we already know it costs a lot. Who's going to pay for that? Is there going to be a new line item on the utility bill that says light rail upkeep? I'll give Mr. Spohr an idea here. He's $40 a month, right? Folks, it's time to hit the pause button. Take a look at this thing. You don't even know if you have a demand or not. You're going to spend all this money and you don't even know if you got riders. Put a bus system along that line and run that. A big bus running back and forth. Pave it over and see if you have a market. Cost you next to nothing. And then you'll know. And if you do, fine. Go forward with that. Go with a monorail or something, not light rail. Oh, and by the way, the people who talk about Charlotte, we lost the war to Charlotte. They need to look at the history.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being down. Next speaker, please.
Chris Brown and Dr. Robert Young.
We welcome you today, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen of City Council, Mayor Sessoms, good night. My name is Christopher Brown. I'm 28. I'm a realtor, currently in my last class, my broker's license. Apparently, I am in the minority for the millennials who oppose light rail in this room. I am also not a part of a young business lobby group. The youth I know who actually depend on public transportation want buses and not rail. The fruits of tonight's discussion should add relief to the families of Virginia Beach. We all forfeit a portion of our product in the form of taxes in exchange for essential services that individual families have difficulty providing on their own. A flowing sewer system, a timely response from the police, a smooth drive on the street. These are the kinds of services we expect from our government. Services that have a net benefit to each family as a whole. The first Norfolk light rail in the early 1900s was dismantled due to the popularity of the automobile, which offers a much wider range of mobility and liberty. I do not think the car has become less popular or less efficient since then. In fact, the opposite is true. Recently, Google has successfully tested a car that can self-drive. For thousands and thousands of miles, the car safely navigated itself across the United States with only one wreck, which was the fault of the other driver. What will the ridership of light rail be when cars begin self-drive? Or less futuristic, what will the ridership be when private entrepreneurialism like Uber and Lyft become more popular? True vision would foresee the possibility of self-driving city buses that can be called by an app and instantly calculate the most efficient and quick way to travel. That is the future. Light rail is literally from the past. At $1.3 billion to bring to the ocean front, $44 million to operate per year, and the cost for future maintenance, it is clear that moving forward on light rail is not in the best interests of Virginia Beach residents. Increasing taxes to pay for a transportation system that is not needed and has the innovation of the phonograph is unjustifiable. Once built, the residents of Virginia Beach will be stuck with this relic for generations to come. Support for light rail extension is a grievous violation of the fiduciary obligations to the residents of Virginia Beach. Therefore, I strongly suggest drop support for light rail. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. We welcome you tonight, sir.
Gentlemen and ladies and fellow citizens, my name is Bob Young. I came here in 1973 to join the faculty at the Eastern Virginia Medical School, and I retired several years ago. As you can tell from my shirt, I have 4 short points that I want to make. As you can tell from my shirt, I'm in favor of light rail. I see it as the linchpin or keystone arch of a comprehensive public mass transportation for the Tidewater region. Not just to the commercial centers, but to the neighborhood communities each of us represent. The second point is a little bit of a backstory. I grew up in New York City and Philadelphia. We never had a car. Nobody in my family knew how to drive. We walked a lot, which I attribute somewhat to my longevity now, and we took public transportation. I must confess, a few times I ducked under the turnstile instead of paying the nickel in the subway, and so that my parents could keep those nickels, and I'm paying that back right now, so thank you. The next point is I stop at the Subway store sometimes and get a sandwich, and I look up on the walls and I say, hey, I was there. And I like to talk to the employees and the customers and tell them a little bit about public transportation in New York City. My final point really, well, I guess one aside is that I do believe in taxes. I think we should tax fairly and spend wisely. But I think taxes is the dues that we pay to have a humane, compassionate community. So I'm in favor of higher taxes if we tax fairly and spend wisely. So my final point is the best way to plant light rail is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Paul Simon.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, future Mayor John Moss.
I'm not looking for that job.
Well, of course, I'm here to urge you against light rail. It seems like most of everybody's minds are made up. I understand that everyone up here is reasonable, intelligent, and most of the people in here are also reasonable, intelligent people, and some are very emotional about this subject, especially when it comes to taking money out of their pocketbooks or out of their wallets. And the light rail is not really about traffic, because we all know that light rail is not going to do much to traffic, if anything. 2,400 riders a day. That's not going to help that. So what's light rail for? It's for business development, right? There's no guarantee the light rail is going to develop businesses. Sure, some people are going to want to start businesses near the light rail lines, but that's going to be on them. But you're talking about the city of Virginia Beach, the people, putting it to them for 50% of the amount of the cost of light rail. If you take this next vote to go to the next step, it's never going to stop. You know that, and I know that. Nobody in here is naive enough to think that once it goes to this step, it can never be stopped. And we understand that, and I understand probably past tonight, it's a done deal. My objection is how it's being paid for. And it's really being heard a lot from the millennials and young people. And, some people don't mind paying $4 for a cup of coffee. I do. I don't do that. But some people just like to throw the money away. I think the young people in the room, mainly the, people that are under 40, I'm going to say, don't have the same perspective I do. I've lived in Virginia Beach for 57 years. That's all my life. And I have a different perspective on my tax dollars and how I want them spent. And I don't want them going to burden my daughter. If it goes on like this, then she's and her generation are going to be burdened with a debt. Some people were bringing up the city of Charlotte light rail. I want to read from their own website. Said federal grants paid 43%, I know y'all like statistics, of their original line in 2007. It said there will be a $5 billion deficit by the year 2030 in Charlotte, North Carolina, if the long-range transit plan is to be realized. Additional taxes and public-private partnerships will have to be explored to make up the difference. Additional taxes. In 2 or 3 years, 5 years, you're going to ask for more taxes to support light rail. In years after that, you're going to need more taxes to keep supporting light rail. It's not going to end with this 6 cents on the property taxes. Just because we have the lowest in the region doesn't mean it's any better. We need to continue stopping this right now.
We thank you very much for coming down, sir. Next speaker, please.
William Rigney? William J. Rigney? And Betty Kennedy.
We welcome you today, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Members of the City Council, good evening. I feel highly qualified to make a comment on the subject of light rail. Starting in the first grade, I commuted to school from my suburban home from downtown Philly. And then after 8 years there, I did 4 years in high school, basically light rail. And then I went to college using a light rail high-speed line out from my home. It took about an hour and a half to go each way. First, the situation in Virginia Beach is vastly different from the one that I faced. Pre-World War II, the nation was in its worst recession ever. Many families had no car and depended on public transportation. This is not the case that we have in Virginia Beach. Our proposed right rail line, which will serve mostly already developed land, so there goes that reason for doing it. In the Philadelphia case, light rail became obsolete, and the ugly wires and the tracks were removed years ago. Secondly, the light rail option, quote light rail, unquote light rail, is too costly. Review of HRT's environmental impact statement shows that the light rail option is twice the cost to both install and to operate than a bus system. Unstated is the fact that the more expensive light rail option is inflexible. So if it doesn't work, we're stuck with the ugly wires and tracks, while the bus option can be easily allowed for modification. Thirdly, the projected ridership is very sparse and unlikely to grow, so as many advocates dream of. In summary, I'd like the City Council to vote and drop the white elephant from the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
Steve Laporter, and then Betty Kennedy.
Sorry, should do squats.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you. The meeting's been quite entertaining. My name is Steve Laporta. Before I start, I want to say, I think it was Samuel Clemens who said there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, and they're all in here. I'm opposed to light rail. On Sunday, May 3rd, the Virginia Pilot Editorial Board was all in for light rail extension. They noted that the state made a generous commitment. On Monday, the pilot criticized the state for wanting to improve 460, stating that improving the highway for such a short stretch is unlikely to be worth the millions it would cost and the disruption it would create. This is precisely describes the 3-mile light rail extension to town center. They make it up. If you feel that building light rail is the right thing to do, then do not build is the best option. If light rail is nice to have versus need to have, then do not build is the best option. If you acknowledge that light rail will not reduce automobile congestion, then do not build is the right option. If the projected number of riders is so low that the cost per ride becomes a ludicrous number when compared to the cost to build, then do not build is the best option. When the supporters of light rail use their selling points and future development and connections to the naval base and other purely speculative ventures, then do not build is the best option. Investing this much money in antiquated technology is a terrible waste of taxpayer dollars. Do not build is the best option. Finally, comparing this region to other areas with light rail is laughable. Each metro area is unique. The state should solve the bridge, tunnel, and the I-64 problems and thus benefit the many before they waste money on a transportation plan that benefits the few.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Betty Kennedy, and Carol Taylor.
We welcome you tonight, ma'am.
Nice to be here. Sessoms and members of the council, thank you for letting me come. I'm probably one of the oldest ones here speaking tonight, at least the oldest female. I have been living here since 1966. I came here with my family, and I love Virginia Beach. And I want to commend, first of all, the councils of the past and everything, and under Myra's leadership, how they much improved what Virginia Beach was at that time. I thought it was a honky-tonk town that I was moving to, and now I see what it's become, and I'm very proud of that. So you have done a lot of very good things, the council. But I am, of course, very strongly opposed to light rail. The people who talk about business development, building that, are completely wrong. I went to a meeting at the library which had the expert, I can't remember his name now, I'm sure Mr. Moss, you might know his name, and he gave a speech and talked about light rail. He was an expert on all light rails throughout the country. And not in one place was it ever self-sustaining, and it was not the success, and it was did not have the usership. Now, I think perhaps in Norfolk it's okay, and going to the base would help. But to come to Virginia Beach is really and totally wrong. And now I'm going to read what I've written. First of all, having made my personal comments, I would like to note that Virginia Beach spent $6.6 million on a 3,780-page impact study that I understand has been completely read by Councilman John Moss, the only council member to do so. I wish to congratulate him. I wish to congratulate him for his devotion to the job and to the people. This report cost the taxpayers $6.6 million. This federally required study was submitted on May 4th, 2015, only recently. They found no material positive or negative effect on transportation or social effects. I am not quite sure exactly what that last sentence means, but it does not sound like a validation of light rail. This alone should have been sufficient to shelve the project, considering the cost to our taxpayers, especially the middle class. The $155 million committed by the state for the project should be diverted to a far more important and necessary improvement to our transportation needs, such as an addition to the Hampton Roads Tunnel. This is something new. This is not Virginia Beach, but we are directly affected by what happens at the Hampton Roads Tunnel from all traffic coming north, coming south. This would not only help all of Tidewater, but it would increase tourism to the beach, as many like to travel by car for the weekend or for the week.
Ma'am, thank you very much for your comments. We
May I
appreciate it.
finish a little bit further? Other people are allowed to go.
No, no, ma'am, they weren't. I have to keep, I'm being fair to everyone and treating you the same. So the next
Okay,
speaker,
I just
please.
wanted to say one quick thing about the buses. The buses need to be improved. In almost every country that I've traveled to, where tourists go, there are buses, and they do not go into, and my daughter, for one, cannot get a job because they cannot afford a car, and I can't afford to give it to her. But light rail would not help her at all. We need to improve and have smaller buses.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Carol Taylor. And Tony Hedrick.
We welcome you tonight.
Well, good evening, Mayor. Thank you. And hello to all the council members. It's an honor to be able to talk to you tonight. I'm really distressed about the level of civility that I've heard tonight from people. And I think all of you deserve the honor and respect that comes with the position. And I hope that, your feelings are not too hurt. I know mine would be. And after that, I want to say I'm against light rail. And it's not that I'm against it in all cases, but I think what we have in our city is a situation where this is going on a straight line, parallel with Interstate 264 and parallel with Virginia Beach Boulevard. And so there are ways already of getting people across Virginia Beach that exist today. And not only that, the city was very far-thinking and a wise decision to purchase that property from the railroad and have that available for some option. Now, if we wanted to do something later in the way of, maybe a more advanced type of mass transit system that could move people along that corridor, that would be great. But right now, we don't seem to have that option. As everyone, I've been listening to for the last half hour has been saying, the system is old that we're talking about. So why do it? Take that property and run buses down it. Pave it, run buses down it, not have all the other traffic on it. You would have a great high-speed, way to get through that particular area. And if you're worried about development along it, there'd be a lot of people who would be able to use that system, and you could use those buses some other place. So you put the investment into the buses, you try it out, and then you try connecting, on Independence Boulevard, run buses down Independence Boulevard then too. And, and buses down Wichita, and whatever your connecting corridors are, and try this concept out. And not commit yourself to something that you're putting so much money in that's old technology. And I really don't have much else to say, other than I appreciate the time to, to make my case.
Thank you for coming down. Thank you, Jill. Next speaker.
Tony Hedrick and Jack Goldson.
We welcome you tonight. How are you?
Tired.
Good.
For a long time. Good evening, everyone, and good evening.
fellow residents. I first want to point out something that Mrs. Kennedy referred to, and that is the $6.6 million study. And I want to say shame on all of you, other than for Bobby Dyer and Councilman Moss. You have wasted $6.6 million of our money because you have ignored everything that was in that study and what was in this executive summary. With that, I'll continue. Just over an hour ago, the official public comment period on the draft environmental impact statement on the Virginia Beach Transit Extension Corridor ended. Tonight's public hearing on the preferred alternative route and mode of transit is a process foul at best and an abuse of power at worst. I am a member of the Virginia Beach Transportation Working Group that yesterday at noon filed with HRT a 70-page substantive critique of the DEIS. I suspect that few of you in the past 29 hours have had the time to read and digest that critique submitted. A copy has been provided to the city clerk. The public and the members of City Council should have the benefit of receiving and the time to digest all the comments received by HRT before holding a public hearing on the preferred alternative. Furthermore, City Council should have the benefit of HRT's adjudication of publicly received comments and the Federal Transit Authority's preliminary reaction before Council making an advisory selection of the preferred alternative and mode of transit. Since the DEIS concluded that none of the billed alternative routes and modes of transit provide a traffic congestion relief, had a material positive effect on land use, did not directly drive economic growth, and did not materially have a positive effect for the environment in any dimension, it is far from certain that the alternative 1A will be judged by the FTA to be the preferred alternative. And if judged so, that the FTA will not identify fixed guideway light rail as the preferred mode of transit. The DEIS documents that for build alternative 1A, rapid bus transit has
We
the
thank you
most
very much for your
convenient
comments
weekday
and appreciate
morning.
you coming down tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
And the next is Jim Becker. Birthday.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you for staying so late. I mean, I missed yoga, so I can only imagine what you all are missing right now. And I missed it because this is a momentous moment in Virginia Beach history. This is something that we either will look back on and regret, or it's something we won't even think about. I have been studying light rail for the last 5 years, and I wish I could tell you I can look at a logical reason to do this. There isn't one. There just isn't one. And when we're starting to talk about $325 million or $1 billion to build a transportation solution, especially when it doesn't move anybody, we have to start bringing logic and reason and data into the process. If we took, and then in fact that was part of the referendum question, is this reasonable to do it? Okay. And everything that I have seen suggests that it's not reasonable. Okay, and here's an example of how reasonable the proposal actually is. At $325 million divided by 2,250 projected riders in 2034, that comes out to $140,000 per rider, just in the startup costs. Assuming that each rider gets on, if they're a regular rider, they get on, they get off every day. The city of Virginia Beach could buy them all a Lexus and send them on their way. That's just not reasonable to me as a taxpayer. I don't want to buy somebody a Lexus. If I'm going to buy somebody a Lexus, it's going to be me. Okay. And to add possibly insult to the injury, light rail has failed in Norfolk. And I would like to say it's marginally failed. It's failed. Out of light rail projects in ridership, it ranks 29 out of 33 nationwide. And number 33 nobody's riding it because it got wiped out by a hurricane. So that's how the tide is so high at 29, okay? I would like to say, there was all this business that the city of Norfolk brought in, and I looked at the budget numbers in Norfolk, and I would expect to see that the income that the city, there would be a bump in income. It never happened. It never materialized. The debt service went up while they paid more money out. So this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense from a business perspective. It doesn't make sense from a transportation perspective. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm hoping that you guys take the data and the logic that you have available and make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Marvin Kiefer.
We welcome you today, sir.
Yes, sir. Nice seeing you, Mr. Sessoms, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I mean, ladies and gentlemen of the... That's not Mr. Lilly, and you're not Mr. George Farrell or the former fire chief. He looks real bad, the former fire chief. I seen him at Checker Flag. And nothing's been said about light rail. I ride light rail. I live down there by Centera Nursing Home on Newtown Road, Chickasaw Road, Airhead team. And everybody, I said, go down to council. Go down to council and tell them. They said, that's a loser. That's ridiculous. And I told Mrs. Henley the other day in front of the bank, you remember me? Yeah, I said my wife voted for you, and I voted for you. My wife died of sun cancer, and there's nothing I could do. I bought a 3 Honda Accords, 84, 92, and a 206. The 206 sits in front of I rode my bike all the way downhill, and it's dark outside. Somebody might get me. Oh, my God, I look like a homeless person. I went through Mayfair Apartments the other day. Today, I found this, and I asked my son, my 2 sons and I vote the same. They all vote the same way I do. Well, I'd get upset. They'd cancel my vote out. I said, son, what is this? I just found it. And he says, that's a pit bull chokel. A pit bull chokel? How about the Dobermans? And how about the, what's the other one? The other dog that'll attack you. Rottweilers, yes. But the Doberman, chased that little boy who was Afro-American and killed, the 2 Dobermans killed the boy. It was on 60 Minutes, So riding home, if anybody attacks me, I'm an ex-policeman, I'm a retired state employee, I'm going to give him a heck of a choke. You know what I mean? Because I got the chokeable chain. Let me tell you something. Mr. Brannigan, the city real estate at Cecil, and you're you're appointed by the council. Mr. Lilly used to sit there. I didn't like Mr. Lilly. I don't like light rail. I live right down there. I ride light rail to Norfolk. Oh, it's nice, but what happens if that jumps the tracks? Who's going to pay all the lawsuits and the death claims? We're going to have attorneys for it. Everybody's going to have it. But I'll tell you, I congratulate all of you, because especially you need to come along and try to convince these. You're my Kempsville councilman. I voted for you because you're a woman. I told those people out there where I live, I didn't know who I didn't know anything about you. You knew. An appointee, the fire chief was an appointee, wasn't he? I don't know. If anybody gets a hold of me going back on that bike, it's a long ways, I'm going to give him the old choker chain, okay? It was really nice seeing you.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Marvin Kiefer and Caleb Dobbs.
We welcome you today, sir.
Mayor, council members, I recently had some invasive surgery, so I probably can't give my usual fiery Patrick Henry presentation. So I asked Reed Drunman to give it for me, and he did a great job, and I'm just cleaning up the leftovers. My experience with light rail dates way back in 93, 92, when I lived in San Diego. I had experience with light rail when I lived in Dallas, extensive experience. and I had experience in Houston. And in no case did it meet the requirements that I needed to get around. I asked my computer, being computer oriented, what the attraction of light, what the light rail issue was about. And the computer said the key issue is population density. Virginia Beach does not have the population density to support light rail. It never did. And the exception, the guidelines, federal guidelines, said it should not have been accepted. An exception was made for Norfolk, and you see what happened in Norfolk. Even the pilot, so pro-light rail, said in an editorial that light rail, the ridership is declining to such extent, even though it's heavily subsidized, it's declining. The best thing to do is to make ridership free. That's their solution. That the pilot, you can look it up. They said they should be made free to increase the ridership. And let the homeowners and et cetera, the people who don't ride the light rail, make up the difference. And they also mentioned the computer mentioned computer rail. I've ridden that in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. There is no comparison in the world with light rail and computer rail. And let me give you an example. The proponents of light rail like to talk about how nice it would be to ride the light rail to the ocean front, enjoy a day at the beach, watch the fireworks, and come back. What they don't tell you is my experience in San Diego at the Super Bowl. All day long, they had exhibits and so forth, and people trickled down, some from the light rail trickled down to see the exhibits, and then they watched the game, and then all of a sudden the game was over. And everybody there who had ridden light rail all day long came together trying to ride light rail home. And that's going to happen here if we have major events.
Thank you very much. We hope you feel better, too.
It took 2 hours and 30 minutes to catch that train back.
Thank you.
From the
Next speaker, please.
Caleb Dobbs and Al Wallace.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
I stand here tonight in opposition to your light rail plan, and especially for including it in the budget for this year when you haven't even approved the measures in the first place. Seems kind of crazy to me, but I will repeat some of the things that other people have said. There's a lot of good points made here tonight. One, it appears that the money you spent on the study was wasted because it doesn't look like any of you read it. Because the study said the opposite of all the things that you say about the light rail. So if you're supporting it because it's going to increase business, the study says the opposite. You're supporting it because it's a great green transportation alternative. It's going to reduce congestion and pollution and help the environment. The study says otherwise. You're supporting it because you think it's a good waste of taxpayer money, or it's a good use of taxpayer money. Well, you'd be wrong. It's not. It's a waste. The ridership alone ought to tell you that. It only holds a certain amount of people. It can only move a certain amount of people in a day. And you're going to spend that much money on that tiny little benefit. It's not going to do any good at all. It's a giant waste of money unless you're, say, a wealthy real estate developer who stands to benefit from the building of it, or perhaps the maintenance of it. To me, this seems like a terrible idea. I'd love to stand here and say, yeah, we love light rail. It'd be great, but it doesn't work. The numbers show it. Read the study. That's one of the things I observed here tonight, watching all the proceedings, watching everything that the proponent said, everything the opponent said. One thing that I saw was clear. The proponents of the light rail plan didn't read the study. The opponents did. That's one of the reasons why we're opposed. Maybe if we had read the study and it said all this great stuff and it confirmed all the reasons why you said this light rail is such a good deal, maybe we wouldn't be standing here as opposition to it. But it didn't. It said that this is not going to work the way you think it's going to work, not the way we're going to work the way you're telling us it's going to work. So I know you've made up your minds, and that to me is the worst part of the whole thing. You made up your mind before you heard any of the evidence, and despite what your own study said, you guys have all sat here and you're going to do the opposite. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Al Wallace, Karen Forday.
Al, we welcome you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, and Jim Spoor. Good to see you again. Most of what's been said is pretty much what I'm going to say, so I'm going to keep it very brief. But my position is I'm not in support of the light rail extension to town center. I have observed the parking lot at the new town light rail station. And for the most part, I go there Tuesdays and Thursdays between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, and I've gone there at least a half a dozen times. Rarely have I seen that parking lot even half full. So it's far from being full, indicative that those who want to ride light rail are few from Virginia Beach. Instead of light rail, I would recommend expanding the bus service to Newtown Road for those who don't have vehicles. Extending the light rail simply won't enhance that. Extending the light rail to town center begs the question, why would you want residents at town center, and they're fairly wealthy, board the light rail and head on over to Norfolk to spend money? I'm saying keep the money in Virginia Beach. Keep the money in Virginia Beach. The DEIS study is out. The executive summary makes it very clear that the economic development is just not there. I'll leave that alone since it was talked about so far. I'm not saying throw away the years of effort in the comprehensive plan. I support the multimodal transportation, but we need to look at this a little bit closely, especially the cost factors. And I'll be honest with you, my frank opinion of light rail when I went down to Norfolk many times, I despise those wireways above the tracks. It's ugly and unsightful. Having said that, what do? I just feel that the City Council needs to do more research. We don't need light rail to be in competition with I-264 or Virginia Beach Boulevard. I just don't see the justification for the expense required for light rail when in fact a flexible, smaller size buses that can do a much better job in better serving the citizens of Virginia Beach. Shelf the light rail for further detailed research. Refuse blind ambition.
Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it. Next speaker, please.
Karen Forday and Diane Ryle.
We welcome you tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. I am a longtime resident of Virginia Beach and am here tonight to voice support for funding of light rail in Virginia Beach. We're all here tonight because we love our city. There are many things that make Virginia Beach a great place to live. Our excellent public schools, our extensive parks and natural areas, our great rec centers, and our clean beaches and waterways. All of these things exist today because leaders in the past had the courage to plan for the future, to lay groundwork for all the things that we value today and give quality to our lives. And I appreciate your thoughtful planning for the future of our city. I'm going to skip over my comments about the social and economic benefits of light rail. I think that's already been stated pretty clearly. But I would like to say a couple of things about the environmental benefits. Light rail and development of our SGA plans are a very important part of protecting water quality and open space in Virginia Beach. Our beaches and waterways are one of the biggest assets of our city. They are the reason that many of us live here and are the biggest thing drawing tourists and new residents to our city. One of the most important predictors of water quality is percent of impervious surface. Anything over 10% causes water quality problems. In the northern part of our city, our impervious level is 38%, and a large part of that impervious is infrastructure for cars, driveways, parking lots, and roadways. If we continue to build more and bigger roads and parking lots, we will continue to have more and bigger water quality problems. Reversing these effects is difficult and very expensive, as you all know. In addition, the most stubborn pollutant to reduce in our waterways is excess nitrogen. While there are multiple sources of nitrogen, air deposition from car exhaust is contributing up to 1/3 of the nitrogen that leads to algal growth and algal blooms, choking our waterways and potentially causing toxic blooms. I thank you for your thoughtful planning for the future of our city and for continuing to protect our really valuable natural resources.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Diane Ryle and Florence Gearhart. Diane Ryle and Florence Gearhart. Okay.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Spohr, City Council members, and Mayor Sessoms. I'm Diane Pyle. I was raised in Virginia Beach, graduated from the College of William and Mary, and returned to Virginia Beach to work and raise a family with my husband. For the record, my family and I enjoy and are very active and love our city. We support reasonable taxes and regional growth if the vision for it is rooted in wisdom, logic, and financial restraint. What I'm about to say at first may seem off topic, but please listen carefully because I promise to tie together my remarks. No political leader wants to be remembered for the less than glamorous realities of his or her incumbency. I'm led to stand before you tonight to say that you have been placed in authority and you will be held accountable by he who judges all things accordingly. I also am here to remind you that during your watch, Planned Parenthood's mega abortion center opened its doors in Virginia Beach. In direct contradiction to God who gives life, it literally takes life every day. Strike number one. During your watch, the First Islamic Mosque opened its doors. Its teachings stand in direct opposition to the truth and grace of the one true God. And its teachings contradict everything represented by the cross that was placed at Cape Henry in the spring of 1607, including the faith and the hope of those first English settlers. I bring to your remembrance that Virginia Beach citizens have voted against light rail not once, but twice, by a representative city council vote and a direct vote. In my circle of influence, every person I have spoken with agrees light rail is a misuse of funds and a solution looking for a need. We truly believe there are more inspired and more creative alternatives to be considered over the proverbial financial vacuum being forced on us and strapped on our backs. I implore you, do not ignore the objections of the people. We are neither ignorant serfs nor irrelevant paupers. We're educated, hardworking families who understand the proper role and function of government. We do not want another tax increase. We do not want light rail. We call on you to be good stewards of our money. I implore you, do not allow light rail to be your third strike. Run from this game, run from this behemoth, and hold your heads high because you listened to and heard the collective voice of your constituents the amazing citizens of Virginia Beach.
Thank you.
Karen, Sarah, Gearhart, Robert Dean.
Robert, we welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you. Before I begin for my time, I would like to turn in a set of documents to the city clerk. You all received electronic copies of this, I believe, through Mrs. Smith. If you didn't, please let me know, and I'll be sure to send it to you. One is the study that was done by the Virginia Beach Transportation Working Group. The second was the Inspector General's investigation of light rail operations in Norfolk. The third was the investigative audit of the light rail misuse of funds. And the last one was Cato Institute's light rail study on light rail by Randall O'Toole.
Thank you.
Tonight, I would like to talk about the now deception. You know, obtaining money by fraud, cheating, deviousness, lying, flim-flam. Well, I could go on, but you get the drift. Our mayor, currently under an investigation for failing to disclose his conflict of interest on votes that benefited Town Bank during which time he was a senior executive, was part of the deception that promoted the false light rail ad campaign. Town Bank was one of the major investors in the PAC which funded the campaign of lies created by Dave Ewins, the same person who designed the campaign flyer depicting our mayor arm in arm with President Obama that was passed out at only primarily black precincts. They were distributed by the mayor's closest supporter, Billy Harrison, the person who the mayor appointed to head the Citizens Transportation Advisory Commission. In addition to Harrison, John Melvin, owner of Papco Oil, located adjacent to the Norfolk Southern right-of-way and proposed light rail route, is also a member of the committee and a member of the Commonwealth Transportation Board and Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. And it gets better. After light rail now, our current Secretary of Transportation, Aubrey Lane, headed up the $475,000 propaganda machine called Move Hampton Roads and also served on the Commonwealth Transportation Board. Lane is behind the political favors payoff of $155 million for light rail from the state. Move Hampton Roads is the group responsible for the misleading ads that stated, "Vote yes on light rail November 6th to study it." Sounds nice, but it was an absolute lie that was promoted by those who left their integrity at the light rail station. The truth and exact wording of the referendum question was, should the city council adopt an ordinance approving the use of all reasonable efforts to support the financing and development of the tied light rail into Virginia Beach? The $6.6 million study had already been approved and underway, but the campaign of deceit was successful in convincing the voters otherwise. It would have made Hitler's Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, proud. Which brings me to Councilman Jim Wood, a proponent of light rail at any cost and former chairman of the Hampton Roads Transit Commission. Mr. Wood served in that position during Norfolk's entire light rail construction scam and subsequent federal investigation, and he's still on the commission. That investigation revealed the lies and deceit of overstating the ridership and understating the cost of construction and led to the dismissal of HRT's executive director. While Mr. Wood denied any knowledge of the corruption going on within the agency, it seems that he didn't know or turned his back on what was going on. He would have been perfect in the play The King Wore No Clothes. He also claimed at the time he wasn't able to get any information from HRT staff, which is simply not true, for if he had just a place to call to the Federal Transportation Administration, he would have got the answers. HRT is compelled by law to report any cost overruns.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Dean. We appreciate you coming
If you
down
vote
tonight.
to approve any portion of the light rail
Thank
project
you very
without
much.
reading this synopsis of the DEI I sent to you yesterday, you will be doing irreversible harm to the taxpayers of Virginia Beach. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Next speaker, please.
Kirby.
Who?
Gary Kirby.
Who?
Gary Kirby. And Teresa Root. Kirby.
Kirby. What's the next name,
And
please?
Gary. Dominio Enos.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening, all of you councilmen, city attorney, and city manager. My name is Dorinda Ennis, and I am here to plead for the teachers and the students of Virginia Beach. We have had a wonderful, wonderful school system, and thanks to the support from the government. But I fear now that class sizes are over 30 kids per class in the high school, and this does not include having a teacher's aide. I personally can't even imagine being in a classroom with that many teenagers that are so open for knowledge and so needy of knowledge and so needy for preparation for their next step in life. I can't possibly imagine 30-to-1 ratio. And I think that we have let them down by not funding the schools properly. And that, to me, is really important. And I know less about the fire department and the sheriff's department and the police department, but I expect that they are possibly in a similar situation. And I'm an old-fashioned woman. I think that that should be our function of government, is to provide those kinds of services and to support the infrastructure. I was turned on by one of your council members a couple of years ago about light rail, and I had known nothing about it before, except it sounded like a really, cute, neat idea. But then when I started investigating, I realized this is economically unfeasible, not only for us, but for every city in this country, except for probably New York, and that's not really light rail. I understand that that's the only financially solvent system in the country. So I have continued to try to do investigation about that, and I think what happens is they all find that they don't meet their goals, and it costs them far more than they ever anticipated that it would cost. So the latest things that I have looked at, it's not a new study, it's approximately 10 years old, but it's done by the Federal Reserve Board in St. Louis, Missouri. And it is, it's really quite, fascinating, interesting document. I'll leave the 30-page one with the clerks, and I have 4 copies of this one for you all, for those of you who haven't seen it. And I think anything that we have heard tonight, I probably changed my opinions about 10 times in just listening. I keep, listening to millenniums and thinking, oh my goodness, we need to leave them a legacy that they're going to be happy with. But you know what? We need to leave them with a legacy that they can live with.
Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate you coming down. Thank you.
Carl Wright. Carl Wright.
Next speaker.
Megan Foyer.
We welcome you tonight.
As a local resident, a student of Old Dominion University, an employee of a business located in Town Center, a millennial, and the future wife of a public servant, as well as a future urban planner, because that is my major, I am in support of light rail for many reasons. The biggest reason is due to the current extremely steep cost of transportation for this region. I lived in New York City for a few years, and my transportation costs living there were 1/5 of the costs that I pay living here in Virginia Beach. This includes my $250 a year parking pass to park at Old Dominion University, whereas if I had been able to take the light rail for the years that I attend Old Dominion University, I would be spending $45 a year in order to take the light rail and bus system combined for the entire year. Between my fiance and I, we spend more on transportation costs than on our mortgage, utilities, and food costs combined. This is not a cost that millennials like myself are willing to pay in order to live in Hampton Roads. In the future, we will move, and we are moving in droves. We will not live here for very long. A lady mentioned that residents have less money to spend when in this area if light rail is being built. That is simply untrue. I personally will have several hundred to thousands of dollars to spend in the local area if light rail is approved and extended to the point where I can give up my car, which I would be totally willing to do. This region is dependent on attracting and maintaining the younger generations. In order to do this, you must provide an accessible city to compete with other cities. Light rail will help the economic growth as well as decreasing the traffic on local highways. For comparison, adding one lane to a highway like I-64 or 264 will decrease traffic by 1 minute or less for commuters. And a public transit system like the light rail will decrease daily commutes by 10 to 20 minutes. Expanding the bus system has also been proposed tonight as an alternative. While I agree that the bus system does need to be expanded, it needs to be expanded alongside the light rail, not instead of it. Winston Churchill once said, "Americans can be trusted to do the right thing after exhausting all the alternatives." Please don't waste your time exhausting all the alternatives only to fail to help this region. Please support the light rail. Do the right thing right now to support this region and its populace.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Carl Wright.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council.
Good evening.
I'm just here as a citizen of Virginia Beach. I've been listening to this light rail thing a long time. I've heard a lot of folk talk about it. Seems like Mrs. Moss again got out front and he's against it. But in honesty, I'm tired of driving around. I want another option. Light rail is another option. There are a lot of people in here, you know, that nice folks. I feel they have the best intention for the city. But light rail, to me, makes sense. It makes sense. It's another option. I know in the past, you know, I hear folks say no all the time. No to recreation. No to the water line. No to enhancing the ocean front. And each and every time, it works out in our favor. I'm hoping that we have an opportunity here that the light rail will work. You know, I saw folks say they go out there and they don't see any cars. I see cars out there all the time. So I want to commend you all for staying here because I am tired. I mean, and I want to commend you guys because this has been a really tiresome night, but I came down because it was a lot of searching and a lot of soul searching. I was thinking about this light rail piece, and it makes sense, you know, driving here. I heard one guy say he rode his bike all the way from Kentsville. I'm like, hey, man, you have another alternative to get to the city council down here. Maybe light rail would have brought you here, but I'm saying to you all, let's move forward with the future of Virginia Beach. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Your Honor, that is all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you all for your patience and your time for coming down tonight. And however, our meeting is not over. So I will now move to appointments. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh.
If you did, come forward, please. I can easily understand how an oversight could have been made with the large number of people.
We called him, but he didn't answer.
But that's right. Come, please speak. You've got 3 minutes, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be outrageous like that, but
No.
I waited all this time for that.
And we're certainly going to give you right, but understand also we had a lot of speakers and something probably just slipped.
Okay.
But we welcome you.
First thing I want to do.
Let's get your time right, though, please. Go ahead.
First thing I want to do is say to you that I heard what you said about the media not covering the good things that the police department did today, and I'm full agreement with that.
Well, thank you.
But then they go on.
Well, every now and then you got to give me a little compliment.
My name is Frank Papson, and I'm a resident here. I just got news today of the $155 million that the governor gave to you in response to your support of him. He's taking it out of the personal property tax decrease that he gives all the citizens on their automobiles because the state doesn't pay as much as they did. So that's where he's getting his $155 million. And then the city turned around and raised the rate that they're charging me on my automobile too. So that ought to help a little bit. I hear so much talk about Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, one of the things you don't hear about Charlotte, North Carolina is the fact that there's 750,000 people there, twice our size. 2, they have a beltway that goes around that carries transportation all around it. They have a bus service there that you would drool over to have here. And one other minor little detail is the fact that they have a baseball team, a football team, baseball, football, basketball. They have a 500 Charlotte racetrack. They have 2 arenas, and they have a convention center. And this 9-mile long blue line that they have down there with 15 different stops on it is in debt. But that's beside the point, because you people, you've already made up your mind as to what you're doing. One of the reasons why we have such bad transportation problems in this area is the fact that so many road projects that were supposed to have been built were never built. They never did Lynn Haven Parkway out the Centerville Turnpike. They never straightened out Providence Road. They never did Indian River Road. And one other minor little detail is the fact that the bus services in this area are horrible. And one of the reasons why they're horrible is because, according to them, every time they asked for different routes and increases and such, it was turned down by the Common Council, which for one reason or another might have felt the light rail was more to their liking. As far as economic development is concerned, the jobs that are generated are low income. And our income in this, our gross income in this area is now decreasing. And we actually need something better than that. I think you ought to use the money for benefit of the people.
Thank you for coming down, sir. Okay. Again, we thank everybody for their attendance. We'll now go to appointments, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate to the Public Library Board student for 2-year term, Jade Copeland, a junior from Bayside High School. To the Resort Advisory Commission, Mr. B.J. Bowman.
Miss.
Is it a miss?
Yes.
Yeah, B.J. Bowman. And to the Tidewater Youth Services Commission, Olympia A. Perkins, who is Director of Court Services.
Do I hear any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 11 to 0, you have appointed those nominated by the Vice Mayor.
Is there any unfinished business? Is there any new business? Do we have any speakers for?
No, Your Honor.
Well, adjourned and adjourned. Thank you all for your patience and great work.
What?